everyone, and welcome to the heartland of America, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Acres and acres of corn, and yes, it's knee-high by now, and plenty of great stock car racing, especially here in Cedar Rapids at the Hawkeye Downs Speedway. Hi everyone, I'm Dave Burns, this is Sandy Hang, and we're really excited to bring you the racing action here tonight. You know, Hawkeye Downs and the Cedar Rapids area have really embraced ASA racing in the few short years that we've been here. I mean, they come out with signs and placards and really get crazy about their favorite drivers and the racing in general.
Well, tonight, after the checkered flag falls, it will be halfway through the AC-Delco Challenge Series season. And this is a pivotal moment because drivers and teams will be looking back where they've been, and they will be looking ahead. And in some cases, when they look at that compass, they're going to find out they're not headed in the right direction.
Have to make some changes. Now, here at Hawkeye Downs and in the state of Iowa, they'll tell you that Iowa has the most speedways per capita. How about that? But here at Hawkeye Downs, the history goes way back, and it even used to be a horse track. Let's take a little look at the history here in Cedar Rapids. The year was 1937. A crowd of nearly 12,000 people were gathered when Cedar Rapids, Iowa dropped its first green flag at Hawkeye Downs Speedway. 30 years later, driver Ernie Durr set a world record sub-25-second lap around the dirt half mile. Throughout the 70s and early 80s, the track's reputation continued to rise, attracting some of the best drivers in the world. Asphalt replaced dirt in 1988, and today, Hawkeye Downs Speedway plays host to several ASA, Gold Star Series, and ARTCO events each year. And the facility provides Cedar Rapids with weekly Friday and Saturday evening events in several racing divisions.
Well, in the last 9 races, 6 different drivers have tasted victory. And I tell you what, several teams are red hot so far. And tell you what, on top of it all is the ASA points leader in the groove. Current ASA points leader Kevin Sawinski led the Bumblebee Brigade to its second win of the season last Friday. Kevin's looking to capitalize on his lead tonight. Lucky 7, Gary St. Amant strives for his 3rd win. He sits a solid 2nd in the points standings. And ASA veteran Bob Seneker always runs well at Cedar Rapids and seems poised to get his first win of the season tonight. Looking to soar at Hawkeye Downs, number 5, Steve Holtzhausen, is moving up in the standings as the series nears the halfway point. These drivers are in the groove. Well, Steve Holtzhausen has had 3 podium finishes out of his last 4 starts, so he promises to be good tonight. Let's go up now to the booth to my colleagues Jim Trado and Ralph Shaheen, who will be calling the race in just a little bit.
Thanks, Sandy. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Hawkeye Downs Speedway. 300 laps of great short track racing here for you tonight. And you know, in the first 6 races of the 1997 season, Jim, we had 6 different winners. Then in the last 3 races, we had our first repeat winners, 3 of them in a row to be exact, with Gary St. Amant, Mike Harvey, and then last week at Kaukauna, Wisconsin, we had Kevin Sawinski. So, Jim, the question is, do you expect us to have another repeat winner, like maybe a Mike Miller or a Steve Carlson, or do you expect to maybe see another new fresh face in victory lane? Bob Seneker and Mike Eddy are still looking for their first victories in 97.
Just some of the drivers you talked about. There's up to 15 guys that can win any given race in the AC-Delco Challenge Series, but 2 guys specifically you mentioned that have already won this year. Mike Miller. He won the season opener at Kenly, North Carolina. This racetrack suits his driving style. He's run all 4 events that have been run here. He's got a 4th place finish a year ago here at Hawkeye Downs. This racetrack does suit his style because it's a lower banked and you have to handle on the inside of the racetrack. Now, speaking of Steve Carlson, the winner at Peach State Speedway in Jefferson, Georgia, his team has an incredible record here. They won the inaugural race with Steve Holtzhausen behind the wheel of this 87. And last year, Tony Raines, one of his 3 wins onto the ASA Championship, was here at Hawkeye Downs. So looking at how they match up and how it plays out, Steve Carlson also has in his back pocket a winner's trophy from about a month ago in a super late model special. So that team is very strong here at Hawkeye Downs, specifically with Carlson behind the wheel and Howie Leto being the crew chief for that great team.
It's been a very, very warm afternoon here at Hawkeye Downs Speedway, but there's a nice breeze starting to kick up, and the sun's getting to settle back behind turns 3 and 4. So it should be a great night of racing here on this half mile, the only paved racetrack in all of the state of Iowa. Now, when we come back to Cedar Rapids and the Hawkeye Downs Speedway, we'll introduce you to a local superstar, Brad Loney, who's really been making his mark on the AC-Delco Challenge Series.
Welcome back to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the Hawkeye Downs Speedway. This is Brad Loney's home track, and he's excited about being here because he's a fierce competitor. He's a proven winner in ASA, but you know, his racing passion didn't even begin with motorsports.
Professionally, I thought I'd become a ski racer. I mean, that's what I wanted to do, was race downhill. I knew that the very first time my parents took me out west to ski.
Brad went up to the top of the tallest peak, and he was about 4 feet tall. And he ran the whole thing, scared the living dickens out of Sally and I.
We stood at the bottom.
We stood at the bottom, hoping they wouldn't find pieces of him coming down the top. So when he got down, he just said, "I love it." I mean, he was ready to go back up again.
I raced everything. It didn't matter what it was, whether it was a foot race at school or the bicycle racing when I was 11, the downhill ski racing, and then the motocross, and now stock cars. I think the competitive part of wanting to do any kind of racing that I've been involved in since even with the BMX when I was 11, I think all stemmed from the competitiveness that I had with my younger brother Brian. It was always a battle, tooth and nail, to see who was going to be the best, and I always wanted to win.
He got a little more serious, took it to heart, and I think I tended to make it more of a fun thing.
Having him there every day, trying to outdo me, forcing me to be that much better than him every day, pushed both of us to become better at whatever we did. I raced the motorcycles until, I guess, my second year in college, when in February we went out and were practicing for the season early, and I tore the ligaments in my thumb and wasn't able to ride that summer. And that's kind of how I found my way into stock cars.
I pretty much told him that. I said, well, that's the end of our motocross days. And he goes, oh no, I'm just going to try this for a while.
Yeah,
said, I'll be back.
I was sure that I'd keep riding the motorcycle.
I'll be back racing. This is way too much fun to give up. And I said, hey, everybody that does this, once they get involved in stock cars, just way too much work and way too much commitment. And I said, that's going to be the end of your motocross days. And that's pretty much what happened.
I didn't believe him, but here we are today.
Well, Brad Loney is a tough competitor, and one thing he and every driver here tonight is going to have to deal with is this oval, this track. This is turn 4. There is a dip going down. On the front stretch, it's like a hill drivers have to go through. Then when they get to turn 1, some drivers call it a fishing hole. It is a huge crevice that they have to go down and get into. All of the setups tonight will be very important, and each driver will have their own individual spin. But one thing that drivers can't do differently, a basic building block that every single driver shares, is the chassis. And to understand how it's put together, you have to visit How. That's How chassis, that is. Today, another ASA race car is born at How Chassis near Beaverton, Michigan. Every car starts life here because every ASA chassis evolves from this common center section, the survival pod.
We use an 1 3/4 DOM tubing, and the unique thing about this midsection, it's the only one that I know that is hardness tested. All the tubing is tested and certified in each one, where most of the sanctioning bodies call for a certain wall thickness and size. They don't really specify the content of the tubing.
To make sure teams don't make modifications for a competitive advantage, a registered serial number is welded into the cage, and tech inspectors can check it. Bottom loops on the frame prevent the drive shaft from falling onto the track.
Floor pan is the same in all the cars. It's an 1/8 inch thick floor pan, protects the drivers from the bottom. But what we've done is we've added these plates. This is nothing new, but they're a little more elaborate than most divisions. These plates are an 1/8 inch thick, and they protect anything from penetrating through and getting to the driver.
Front and rear clips attached to the frame. Those can be built by anybody, including the drivers themselves.
The products that were available on the market at the time, I felt that all of them could be improved on. And, you know, by the time you buy a car and start cutting it up, then you might as well just have built your own to begin with.
Now, if you're going to build your own car, of course, you need lots of time and lots of money. And Buddy Schrock thought, oh, by the way, yeah, he's Racer X. Buddy Schrock thought that he could get both of more if he became his own boss. Was he right?
In my infinite wisdom, I decided that the ticket to do this was to open a business so we could take off and go race on the weekends when we wanted to, and that really was our downfall. It was tough trying to build a business and go to the races and spending money on two different things, and we ended up doing them halfway.
It wasn't just one business that diverted his mind and money. It was a repair shop, a body shop, an auto parts store, one car lot, 2 gas stations, and most recently, Buddy bought what had been his personal watering hole.
Now, I'm going to get my act together, and we're going to pay off debt here, and we're going to go racing when I get this debt paid off. As I formulated that plan and started putting numbers together, I realized this thing's going to work, but I'll be drawing Social Security by the time I'm able to go race again, so no, we're going to have to formulate a plan B here. I actually went and talked my wife into letting me get a second mortgage on the house here to go buy the car and motor and the pit equipment we needed, but that's all that second mortgage bought, so we're sitting here, well, we got us a nice race car and some nice equipment, but we don't have any way of getting the thing to the racetrack. And it just happens that we're a U-Haul dealer. We still had our old open trailer from when we raced back in the 80s. And, well, by golly, this will get us to the racetrack. And it did. And it served its purpose well. Fortunately, we've been able this year to get us a dually pickup with an enclosed trailer. So look a little more impressive pulling in the racetrack.
And we here on TNN has certainly been impressed with Buddy Schrock ever since he's come back to the American Speed Association. Racer X, Speed Racer, Buddy Schrock. How about sitting out those 6 years? How tough was that for you? You love to race.
One of the toughest things I ever did in my life, Dave, but tell you what, sitting out these last 2 races prior to this was tougher than that. Donnie and Pappy and the boys been giving me a good car here, and things fast tonight, and just love to go racing with it.
Now, the 2 races sitting out, you had some time to work out some problems. I understand tonight you've got more horsepower than you've had all year.
Found out we've been running 15 horse short all last year and this year. We had some air cleaner problems that we didn't know about, and I was really surprised. I could tell the difference out there today, and loosened the car up a little bit too much qualifying. I got a little rambunctious on the second lap, but the car feels real comfortable.
And again, if we haven't said it already, it's because this guy loves to race. That's why he gets rambunctious. Now, Ralph Shaheen loves to go out and spend time with the drivers, and he went out and hung out with Mike Kofer for a while recently, just for kicks.
The Hawkeye Downs 300 is brought to you by Quaker State, the quality your car deserves, and by Miller Lite, who reminds you that anything can happen at Miller time.
Welcome back to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where we're getting set for the Hawkeye Downs 300 from live right here in the heartland of America. You know, I grew up in Northern California, and naturally, like most Americans, I'm a fan of the NFL, and the San Francisco 49ers have always been my team. Well, when Mike Kofer joined the American Speed Association, I was really thrilled. Of course, Mike was a place kicker for the 49ers in 2 of their 5 trips to the Super Bowl. And lately, I had the opportunity to go out and kick field goals and live out a childhood dream with Mike Kofer. Well, here we are at John Cook Field here in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is where Mike Kofer played his high school football. And Mike, how come it's not named Mike Kofer Field? I mean, you do have 2 Super Bowl rings.
Yeah, I was, you know, maybe now we're in racing. Maybe they named the track after me or something like that. Kofer Track, Cook Field at Belk Stadium. You got to like that.
I like it. I like it. Okay, so now I've always dreamed of playing with the 49ers, and that obviously isn't going to come true anytime real soon, but I am going to get to kick some field goals with you here today. What's the ground rules for our game here? Is best out of 3?
Best out of 3.
Okay.
You'll start with an extra point.
All right.
A 20-yarder.
No problem.
If you make it, you got to go back 2 yards, I believe.
Piece of cake.
To a 22-yarder. And then if you make that one, you go back another 2 yards to a 24-yarder. And I think with my expert instruction, you've got a good shot at going 3 for 3 inside of 25 yards. So.
Yeah. And I think we'll start you from what I've seen you warming up today, somewhere about that goalpost back there.
Well, I don't know. I got a little bit of a handicap. I'll start with a 30-yarder, and if I make it, I'll go back to a 40-yarder, and if I make that one, then I got to go back to a 50-yarder.
just left.
Distance was good. Distance was good, but just left.
All right,
just
you're
left.
up next.
You open the door. That's all I got to say. I've got room for error, so we'll see what we can do right here.
I'm thinking that's a bit Norwood. A little wide right there, baby. Wide
just
right.
inside the right upright. Yes! You gotta love that, baby.
It's good. Right there.
And the mic came out, but we stuck it through.
This is for all the money. Yeah. That was weak.
I've just got to make sure that I don't try to overkick this ball. So, and we'll try to
Yeah,
keep
because I'd really hate to see you kick one 60 yards.
Yeah. Okay, we'll give it a shot.
It's up, and it's...
I think we got that one too, Ralph.
Well, as you could see, it was 3 for 3 for him from as far back as a 50, and I went 1 for 3, but I got my extra point
You
in.
did.
And I'm thinking that that pretty much is why my class ring from Chico State is a little bit smaller than that one there.
Yeah. Well, you know, Chico State, San Francisco 49ers.
I really want to thank Mike for letting me come out and live out that childhood dream of getting to do something with my beloved San Francisco 49ers, but I don't believe I'm going to be getting any phone calls from the organization anytime soon to join up. But I did go back, Jim, and I did make that second one and an extra try. So I really went 2 for 4.
I didn't see that on the piece there,
trust
Ralph.
me,
I
it's
didn't
in
see
the tape.
Was
They
the
had it,
cameras
they just
there?
didn't want to show
all
it.
right, all right.
But Kofer really could have gone 55 yards. That
He really kicked that
he
ball.
booted it.
Man.
Well, this is a one-day show for the AC-Delco Challenge Series drivers. They got here about 9 a.m. this morning for registration. 11 o'clock, they hit the racetrack for a 2-hour practice session. Had about an hour on for lunch, and then at 1 o'clock, they qualified here, Iowa time. Now let's take a look at the qualifying for the first 3 guys. And it kicked off with Kevin Sawinski out of Lakeville, Minnesota. The winner at the last round of Kaukauna, Wisconsin, a 2-time winner on the tour this year. He is the points leader. He'll start third tonight, 18.82 seconds for his lap.
Now, Gary St. Amant was 3/100ths away from his 4th pole of the season. However, he'll start second outside row number 1 in the Wins West Michigan Chevrolet Monte Carlo.
Scott Hansen, his team is really on a roll right now. The Concord, North Carolina driver, the Schrader Racing back Chevy, 18.7 seconds, 95.8 miles an hour. Scott Hansen gets the pole here tonight for the Hawkeye Downs 300. Let's take a look at the top 10 for tonight's race. Hansen, St. Amant, and Sawinski, of course, the top 3. Mike Miller and local hotshot Brad Loney round out the top 5.
Jack Landis matched his career best qualifying effort. He'll start outside row 3. Rick Beebe has 2 poles this year and has run very well at this racetrack. Round out the top 10 by Mike Eddy, Seneca, Buddy Schrock. We just talked to you about all those business interests he has.
I really like the fact that Mike Eddy and Bob Seneca sit inside that top 10 at 8th and 9th. I think they're really going to be 2 drivers to keep an eye on. But the man who will be pacing them to the green flag is standing by with Sandy Haig.
Well, Scott Hansen has conquered a lot of tracks in his day, but this is one track here in Cedar Rapids. He has yet to claim the checkered flag. I know you're thinking about a lot of things tonight sitting on the pole, Scott. What is most important in your mind?
Well, we just need to try and get that first win for Ken Schrader Racing. Car's running excellent again, you know, and we'll get in and out of the pits okay tonight. We'll be in good shape.
Well, that's Scott Hansen, the pole sitter. Let's go down the grid to Dave Burns.
At the first race of the year, Sandy, in Kenly, North Carolina, Jack Landis led a lot of laps, and he lapped nearly the entire field. They had a great car that day. They have a great car today. And, Jack, you were the fastest Ford in the field today. Guys like Seneca and Holshausen, they've done great here. How'd you out-qualify them?
Well, I think a lot of it's going to have to add towards our Kinetic racing engines that we have. And Chris and all the guys up there at Kinetic do a fine job for us. And actually, another part of it's just trying to figure out the softer compound we've been running. We changed the car up a considerable amount than what we normally would with these tires. And well, obviously, it paid off a little bit today.
And they told me earlier, Jack has been spending a lot of time in the shop this year getting things just right. When we come back, we're going to go with Eli Gold as he digs deeper into the roots of ASA. He's going to talk to the founder and president, Rex Robbins.
Welcome back to Hawkeye Downs. 30 years ago this year, Rex Robbins hosted his first American Speed Association event, sprint car race in Anderson, Indiana. Rex Robbins is the force, the inspiration, and the vision behind the American Speed Association. Eli Gold takes a look at it.
Unlike Bowie Kuhn, Pete Rozelle, and Bill France Jr., the name Rex Robbins isn't really a household name. But very much like those other men who helped build their respective sports to the pinnacle of success they enjoy today, it's Rex Robbins who has helped build the American Speed Association into the major league sport that it is today.
He really had a lot of hands-on with the drivers and the owners and people like that. He was always talking, and it was always there. He was a very visionary person. You could see him all the time. And Mr. France, he's so busy right now, it's hard for him to get out there and be seen all the time, but you could always find Rex.
You go to having favorites in this business and you're in trouble. And we've always tried to treat everybody, whether it's a Bob Sineker or a Mike Eddy, the same as you do a rookie that's coming into the business. So basically, you treat everybody the same, enforce the rules equally among all the competitors, and you'll get along fine.
But it was Rex's longer races on shorter racetracks, along with his understanding of mechanics, marketing, and media, that made not only the ASA, but many of its competitors successful in more ways than one.
I was young in the series, and he helped develop me along with media, taught me how to promote races and promote myself.
He's always been sponsor conscious. He's always had his drivers trained well, and it really makes a difference when they come down here. It's not like they're going into a bigger league. They're just changing directions a little bit.
He's humble about his accomplishments and the impact he's had on racing, but there could be no mistake about the influence that Rex Robbins has had on drivers.
He's been around a long time, and if it weren't for him and his wife Becky helping me, there were times that I wrote them bad checks just to get in the pit gate, and they'd hold them for a couple days and help me make it to the next race.
He loved it. He lived it. It was his hobby and his career. I mean, he loved racing. He loved promoting. He loved stock cars. His drivers were a family to him. He cared. I mean, a lot of it was in the heart.
Rex Robbins, obviously a very unique man. I'm joined now by Brian Robbins, his son, and the Executive Vice President of the American Speed Association. Brian, the ASA Series has always been a bit of a rebel sanctioning body, the 9-to-1 V6 motors, the long races on the short tracks, and the new body configuration. What is the mission statement of the ASA? What are you trying to accomplish?
Well, I don't know if we're really trying to accomplish anything, Ralph, other than entertain people. But people have looked at us as rebels or innovators or whatever, but, quite seriously, everything that we've done has kind of been common sense approach. So, I think that the future of ASA will continue along the same path. There's no real drastic changes. It's something that I think that people will enjoy, the changes that are coming in ASA. Simply, nicer venues, probably reaching more people, and that's our whole goal.
The last 30 years obviously have been pretty exciting for fans of the AC-Delco Challenge Series, the growth that the series has had. What can we expect to see maybe in 1998 and years to come?
Well, I think that the fans can look forward to maybe seeing us in their locale because as we started out as a Midwestern-based company and in Indiana and Ohio and Michigan, we've reached out, we've branched out into Florida this last year, North Carolina, Georgia. There's some talks of us heading back out west a little bit. So, I think that people who enjoy watching us on television or don't actually have the opportunity to maybe come and see one live and in person, because as great a job as you guys all do, it's still nothing like being there.
Well, Brian, I know we need to let you go. You got a race to go get run. They're about set to go racing down on the racetrack. You can be sure that TNN will be right there, as of course the National Network is the leader in live coverage of the AC-Delco Challenge Series. We're going to head right back downstairs now to Dave Burns.
Gary St. Amant has been on the scene on ASA for a long time now, and if you're a fan of his, perhaps you wonder exactly where he came from. We're going to take a look tonight in tonight's Speed Shots. Gary St. Amant hit the ASA scene in 1986, finishing an impressive 12th in points and second in the Rookie of the Year chase to a guy named Kenny Wallace. His first win came 5 years later at his home track in Columbus, Ohio. That same year, Gary rocked the racing world with a glorious spin and win at the TNN All-American 400 in Nashville. Now, as it was then, racing is about family for St. Amant.
My dad's a big part of the team as far as, he's not labeled the crew chief, but between him and Bill McGowan and Mike Sinetko, they are the crew chiefs. My mom, she still is a big part of it, keeping times, a lot of organization. My wife Tracy, she's behind me. I mean, she's my support.
His ready smile was an early and enduring trademark. But could the jovial young St. Amant transform into a gritty veteran without losing his personality?
It's kind of tough. You know, you almost have to get, when you get in the race car and you put the helmet on, you almost have to change your personality. It gets down to about the last 25 laps, and you know, I think that I turn into Mike Eddy.
After his career best season in 1996, where he finished runner-up in the AC-Delco Challenge Series, Gary joined a team that had never won a race, taking with him the family components that have made him so successful.
I really wanted to go back to Chevrolet. You know, this was the way to do it, and do it the right way, with the West Michigan Chevy dealers, people behind us, Lane Automotive, and then wins. You know, it makes it really easy for us to race the way that you should in ASA.
And Gary, a sort of young veteran in his 12th year with the American Speed Association, is still young enough to entertain thoughts of climbing to racing's highest echelons.
I'd be lying if I said, you know, Richard Childress or Robert Yates calls me up and asks me, you know, to come down there and give it a try. I think I'd probably have to do that.
Until the phone rings, he's sticking with what he knows, winning in ASA. Gary has 2 wins in the 1997 series, looking for his 3rd here tonight. And whenever he comes to a track, he's got a plan. But this year, the tire compounds are softer in order to get better competition. Now, Gary, did the tire compounds being that much gummier this year, did that really change the way you guys attack the race tonight?
Well, you know, there's been a couple races here. The Bob Seneker's won on pit stop strategy, and he's only changed tires 1 time during the race. And I think you're going to see everyone changing tires at least probably 3 times. And, you know, hopefully we can do that. Hopefully the wins, West Michigan Chevy Dealers pit crew can get us out first, and we can pick us up a win tonight.
If you've never watched an ASA race, stay tuned, because we are going to have pit stops live and really in action down there. Sandy Hang and I'll be down there to cover that. When we come back, we'll tell you who we think the ones to watch are here tonight at Hawkeye Downs.
We are just moments away from green flag racing, and there are a couple dark horses you need to know about in the pack. One of them, Mike Eddy. He is one to watch in this race. Why? Because he's got momentum on his side. He's had podium finishes the last 3 of the 4 races. He was 2nd last week, and he has gone for a long drought. 21 races without a victory, and I tell you what, this guy is hungry. Dave Burns, you've got another one to watch.
Sandy, Ted Smokestad impressed everybody last year at the Minnesota State Fair with a 2nd place run. Tonight, he starts way back in the pack here, but he has a lot of laps here at Cedar Rapids. Ted Smokestad is certainly one to watch as you watch him race here tonight at Hawkeye Downs. He has won here in late model competition before. Light news and notes now. Kenny Schrader qualified on the pole in Loudon, New Hampshire, a brand new track record, 129.24 miles per hour. The first pole for Kenny since June of 1995. We'll show you the rest of the top 25 now as we go to break. Welcome back to Hawkeye Downs Speedway in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where it's clear and very, very warm, about 83 degrees, and winds out of the southwest. A perfect night for racing out here. In fact, we're about ready to get go here, and Sandy and I have had a great time bringing you all of the action here. A little bit further look into the inside of the ASA, but Sandy, they didn't come here to listen to us all night. We got to get a race started.
No, we need to get under power right now, and joining us now to get us under power is Tom Brantz. He is an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling from the Atlanta Olympics last summer and a native Iowan. Hey, let's get this thing going here in Cedar Rapids.
Gentlemen, start your engines. Thank you.
Take it away, Jim and Ralph.
Thank you, Sandy. Those V6 engines coming to life, and this crowd here in Cedar Rapids loves their ASA series. They have been yelling and cheering throughout driver introductions. They're ready to go racing. These are some of the names you need to keep an eye on because they are in the top 10 in the point standings. Kevin Sawinski, of course, leads that. He is the reigning Rookie of the Year. The guy who's made the biggest jump, Jim, is Rick Beebe.
Beebe has come up to third. He's only 3 points better than Mike Miller, but with those 2 pole positions and leading a bunch of laps and getting consistent finishes in that Hodges Motorsports Pontiac, he certainly is a driver to consider tonight and every race on out for the rest of the season.
And now look at the back half of the top 10, 6th through 10th position. Our man on the pole, Scott Hansen, sits in 6th position, but the name here that stands out is Mike Eddy, who has just dropped into the top 10.
Finally. Took him all year to get there.
Bob Seneker sits on the grid. He is a driver who has had a lot of success here in recent years. Jim has never finished outside of the top 2. Steve Holzhausen, that Howes lubricator number 5, another car that's done real well here. Here's a look at those 2 drivers and their past histories here at Hawkeye Downs.
This is an amazing finish record for both of these drivers, both driving the Ford cars to great success here at Hawkeye Downs. You can see just by Bob Seneker's standards, he's going to finish 2nd or better tonight if you're a betting man. Steve Holzhausen had a finish of 4th, and you might say that's great, but that was actually his worst finish since ASA started coming here to Hawkeye Downs in 1994. So these drivers definitely struggling this season. Look forward to this race and the race here in September to really get things started and turned around for them.
Both drivers still looking for their first win of the 1997 ASA season. Let's take a look at the grid now for tonight's race. Of course, Kenny Schrader on the pole at New Hampshire, and Scott Hansen, the driver of Kenny's ASA car, on the pole here. And Gary St. Amant, that wins West Michigan Chevy dealer's machine, just 3/100ths of a second off of his 4th pole in 1997.
Hot off his 2nd victory of the year 1 week ago in the Lefebvre Racing Team's Pontiac, Kevin Sawinski to his outside. 3rd top 5 qualifying effort of the season for Mike Miller in the AFC Automotive Group Pontiac.
Back into row number 3, the hometown hero, Brad Loney. His best finish here, a 5th. Certainly looking to improve on that. And Jack Landis on the outside of row number 3. Qualifies well here, has done it again here tonight, but he's never finished better than 24.
Rick Beebe is on a tear. He'll start 7th tonight, but he has 2 poles in the last 3 races, and he's certainly looking forward to getting up to the front in a hurry. Also, Mike Eddy in the 88 car coming off a season-best 2nd-place finish 1 week ago, looking for the victory podium.
And back into row 5, you see Buddy Schrock and Mike Eddy. Buddy Schrock back here after a 2-week absence. And Mike Eddy, of course, the 7-time national champion.
In row 6, we find Steve Holzhausen at Howes Lubricator Ford. Outside of him, Joe Knott in car number 48. Joe Knott will start and look to a race. He had a crash here with Mike Eddy on pit lane that cost him a better finish 1 year ago.
Brandon Sperling and Mike Garvey will make up the next row. 2 top 10s in the last 2 races for Brandon and Mike Garvey, a 2-time winner in 1997.
In row number 8, we find Steve Carlson, a winner here in a late model special, to make that about a month ago. And Ted Smokestead, he used to run here weekly in the trim class Pontiac.
Dave Sensiba and Brett Bell will make up the next row. Dave Sensiba coming back after successful knee surgery. And Brett Bell, of course, maintains his cars in Jeff Gordon shops back in Pittsburgh, Indiana.
In the next row, we find Kevin Ludelman making his 2nd of what could be 8 starts in that Citgo Pontiac. Outside of him, Johnny Spaw, 3-time track champion. Certainly had the crowd on their feet in qualifying and in pre-race introductions.
Next up is Harold Fair, who is 8th in points coming into this race, and Tim Sauter, who's been ran extensively in the top 5 last week until the final 13 laps where misfortune came his way.
In row 12, we find Junior Hanley, who has switched to Chevrolet but continues to struggle. We'll see if we can get a handle on it tonight. Outside of him, Bill Baird in that 30th anniversary paint shop, celebrating ASA's 30 years in car number 30 for that red, white, blue Speedy Pop Popcorn Chevrolet.
Andy Moselle won the last chance race earlier tonight to get into tonight's show, and Ricky Bilderbach is a 2-time Rockford Speedway champion, making his first ASA start.
In his 4th start of the season in the McDonald's Ford is Peter Cozzolino of Indianapolis, and outside of him, Kurt Martin, the local point leader, his first ever ASA start, will have the white and blue number 43 in row 14.
Chuck Hemmingson, the Iowa-based road racer, makes his 5th start in ASA racing, and Paul Payne out of Mound, Minnesota, brings out the Payne Racing Pontiac.
Next, we find ASA veteran Tom Jones trying to break a string of 3 straight motor-related failures coming into this race. 3 straight races he dropped out because of motor problems, and 4th in the rookie standings, the kicker, Mike Cofer in a Chevrolet.
And the final row, the 17th row tonight, will be Alec Pinsino and his Pontiac out of Canada. Billy Turner, the former sprint car driver out of El Reno, Oklahoma, brings out the Sooner Speedback Pontiac. Here's a good look at the jam-packed grandstands here at Hawkeye Downs, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. The only paved racetrack in all of the state of Iowa.
And it's only been paved since 1988, so they were strictly dirt racing. IMCA is a very strong hold here.
Here's a look at Scott Hansen's season after the first 9 events compared to where he was at this point in 1996.
A year ago, he was first in points after 9 races. Now he is 6th. Look at the zeros on the right-hand side. He finally won his first pole of the year, but he dominated qualifying a year ago. He also had 3 wins by this time in the season, and those top 5 finishes need to be up there a little bit more. And Hansen is disappointed in 6th, but you can see why, because of the success he had last year, leading 4 times as many laps as this season.
And before any of you go writing any letters into us letting us know that there is one other paved racetrack in the state, it is for Legends cars. So we're basing our statement off of the fact that this is the only paved racetrack for big, full-sized racing machines. And this racetrack is a unique one. It is a half mile, but the way it's set up, Jim, with the elevation changes and everything, I think is pretty unique.
It's a 5-degree banking in turns 1 and 2, but you see on the bottom there the 5 to 7 degree banking. It's actually a compound banking, so there will see 2 great grooves of racing off of turns 3 and 4. When these cars come off of turn number 4, they make a rise to the start-finish line. The track actually elevates up, and then there's also a patch in turn 2 to consider that we'll keep our eyes on here as well, as this track has come apart just a little bit, and we'll have to keep an eye on how the track surface holds.
Healthy field of cars tried to make the show tonight, and a few of them did not. A couple of names to take note of. Car 78, B.J. McLeod, 13 years old. The MCI-backed Pontiac did not make the field tonight.
Mark Kaloff in the 57 car trying to make his first start of the season, and Gary Terry making one of what could be 5 starts in the Holly Performance Chevrolet. He went home.
For more on Dave Sensiba, who's just getting back from knee surgery, Dave Burns.
Ralph, you mentioned Gary Terry. He's standing by in case Dave Sensiba can't make it into the race. Gary, under what circumstances are you going to get in the car?
Dave had knee surgery last week, and he's hurting pretty bad right now. It's going to be his goal.
Down into turn number 3, Hansen and St. Amand stay side by side. Hansen in that white with the blue numbers, the 52. St. Amand sticking right with him as we stay side by side for a whole nother lap down the back straightaway once again. Kevin Sawinski, the black number 1, 2-time winner on the tour, sliding up to challenge for second. St. Amand, the wins back number 7, trying to fend him off, can't do it. Sawinski will lay claim to the position, and here comes the local hotshot. Brad Loney, the Bun Saver 33, roots his way past Gary St. Amand to take 3rd. And this crowd here at Cedar Rapids loves it. Oh, he gets loose coming out of turn 2.
Loney started on the inside of row number 3, which had a great starting advantage for him. You see he picked up 3 spots. He started 5th, got under Mike Miller, and there he got under Gary St. Amand, who may have said, "You got by me that time, but make sure you know I'm still in your rearview mirror."
Now they start to string it out into single file racing. St. Amand holds on to 4th. That's Mike Miller's goop-backed Pontiac, number 18. He sits in 5th. Rick Beebe runs in 6th behind him. Jack Landis, Buddy Schrock, the Howes lubricator of Steve Holzhausen, Bob Seneker, Mike Eddy, Brandon Sperling, Joe Knott, Steve Carlson, Dave Sensiba, Ted Smokestad, Mike Garvey, taking you all the way back to 17th. Brett Bell, Kevin Noodleman, and Johnny Spa rounding out the top 20 as we complete lap number 6. Mike Miller looking pretty loose in that Goop AFC 1000 Pontiac, the red number 18. Rick Beebe rolling right up behind him in the number 23, the yellow car. Beebe has been on a tear. His pole positions count, Jim. 2 poles in the last 4 races.
Rick Beebe has raced here twice. You remember he was splitting driving chores with Mike Garvey a season ago in this 23 car. He unfortunately has finished no better than 32nd here at Hawkeye Downs. So he certainly is looking for a better run, and he and Mike Miller now get together. Figuratively on the racetrack, they'll probably race 20, 30 laps like this, separated by just a car length. Beebe's team based in Keokuk, Iowa, so they have a number of fans out here. The Craig team with Terry Garrison behind the controls of getting that car prepared each and every week have a throng of fans. Rick Beebe's dad is an integral part of his fan base, shall we say. Gets all the locals fired up for Rick out of Merriam, Kansas. But again, that team based in Iowa currently in the 6th position.
Kevin Sawinski challenging for the lead in the early stages on the bottom side. The black number 1 coming up inside and past Scott Hansen's number 52 to take over the lead. Loney still sits in 3rd.
One race ago, Kevin Sawinski started 14th, his worst start of the year. He had qualified 6th or better. He went on to win the race. Ironically, Gary St. Amant, 2nd in points, started 15th at IRP. He won the race.
And Jim, there is smoke coming out of the back of the Wins Lane Automotive West Michigan Chevy dealers, number 7. St. Amant really had a horrible start. He started on the front row and dropped back to 4th position, and now that car is smoking. We'll have to keep our eyes on that. Early stages of the Hawkeye Downs 300 coming to you live from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Kevin Sawinski is your leader, and the Sawinski Crazies love it tonight.
The Hawkeye Downs 300 is brought to you by the all-new Wide Track Grand Prix by Pontiac. Wider is better.
We are under yellow, the first one of the night here at the Hawkeye Downs Speedway. Brett Bell's Wonderbar Redline Oil Ford quit out on the racetrack, and Brett tried to coast it around to the pit road but could not make it, so the yellow flag comes out on lap 15. Now, we did have a change up front while we were away. Kevin Sawinski out front, the black number 1. Hansen's 52 to the bottom side. Comes inside to take that spot, but watch Brad Loney's 33.
I thought the grandstand was going to come down when Loney goes inside right here of Kevin Sawinski to take 2nd.
You can hear him cheering in the background. They love this young driver who hails from right here in Cedar Rapids. Poor Brett Bell, in talking to him earlier, he said on the way up here, the truck drivers on the highway were telling him, Brett, hang in there, your luck is about to change. Apparently the truck driver's luck isn't any better here tonight, as Brett is still back behind the wall. Sandy Hank?
Well, there's a couple of different tire strategies going on in the pits right now. This is Scott Hansen's. Look down the road. These are all scuffed tires. That's not the same as what's going on in Kevin Sawinski's pit. He has half scuffs, half stickers. So the tire guys are looking at a different strategy here, and it is a softer compound. So I know, Jim Trado, you're our resident tire expert. You're looking at that.
And we're going green. Those Goodyear Eagles heating up in a hurry.
And Ralph, as you know, as they scuff those tires in, they only go through one heat cycle, only 3 or 4 laps. They're basically burn the sticker off the tread of the tire, but also to cure it just that little bit. That makes a difference on restarts. And right when you get new tires on, you want to see if the scuffs or the stickers work better. And apparently Hansen thinks scuffs will work tonight.
Steve Holzhausen having problems with the Howes lubricator number 5. He's on pit road, Dave.
Back out, and when Steve went back out, he had 2 new right side tires. The right rear was going down. They found a cut in it, so Steve had to take a pit stop this early.
We've also had reports of the potential leak in the rear end on that number 5 car. We'll keep our eyes on that and see if we can pick up the telltale smoke out of the back. He's listed in 31st position right now. As we move back up front, where Scott Hansen continues to lead as we work lap 22 of the scheduled 300. Brad Loney in 2nd. Sawinski is in 3rd. St. Amant, with smoke coming out of the back end of his car, runs in 4th. Mike Miller 5th. Rick Beebe 6th. Then it's Jack Landis, Buddy Schrock, Mike Eddy, Bob Seneker, and Brandon Sperling back to 11th position.
There's a good look at the AFC 1000 Car Cop Pontiac of Mike Miller. Just picked up some sponsorship from Automotive Goop and also from Uniseal. His sponsor search continues, but he has a great run here. He finished 4th here, Ralph, on July 6th of last year. His best effort here, but as I mentioned earlier, this is his style of racetrack. If he can keep the left sides on the bottom, a very flat track actually enhances Mike Miller's driving style. The way he has that car designed and the chassis set, he wants to be on the bottom. He doesn't care how high banked the racetrack is. He's going to keep it on the bottom the shortest way around the racetrack.
This is a driver who has really had his career rejuvenated as well.
3 wins a season ago, came back to ASA full-time in 1993. Heck, he was running with Rusty Wallace and Dick Trickle in the late 70s, early 80s in ASA. Established his business, Southeast Air Services, near Atlanta. Got that going, ran some local racetracks at Lanier Raceway, and said, I really need to get back to ASA where my friends are. And he certainly enjoys the series and enjoys the people, and always has a smile on his face, as does his wife, Judy.
It was a magical season for Mike last year. Those 3 wins, as many as he'd had his entire career leading up to that one year.
And he's back to 4th in points. He won the season opener, so things were never brighter after one race. Then the axle broke, and he dropped to 11th in points and has climbed his way back up. Continues to run top 5 in points. And in the 5th position here tonight.
Rick Beebe chasing him from behind. Car number 23, the yellow machine, sits in 6th position. And Jack Landis, the young driver, right behind them in the 07. Now here's a good fight, a little bit deeper inside the top 10. This is for 9th position. 2 drivers looking to make their mark in the 97 season. Mike Eddy's Goodwrench Service Plus Pontiac, and car number 88, the 7-time champion. And Bob Seneker, the Bluebird, car number 84, the Ford Thunderbird, the winningest driver in ASA competition, looking for career victory 83 here tonight.
These drivers, Mike Eddy and Bob Seneker, started 8th and 9th. Ahead of them is the 10th starter, Buddy Schrock. He's out of the picture because I believe he got around Mike Eddy, and Bob Seneker may be getting held up at this point by Eddy's car, which is not
we got
quite
one
handled.
around. Car number 47 is going to collect Billy Turner. The 47 is one of the new drivers on the tour this year, getting his first start in the ASA Series, Paul Payne.
Billy Turner had his car locked down, could do nothing as he saw the car sideways. Paul Payne in the OTC Tools Chevrolet, putting together his own deal. Looks like he fared the better of the 2 cars involved in the incident as he spun. About 2-3 seconds went by, and Billy Turner had nowhere to go but to hit him square in the door, and you can see the body damage on that fiberglass in the 58.
Let's see if we can pick up the action. Oh, he got together with Holzhausen down in turn 1.
Trying to hold the inside line down, and Holzhausen was there. He spun around, and as he came sideways, Billy Turner looked like he might have had a clear path, but as Payne's car spun back down the racetrack with the rear tires going down to the inside, that's where Turner met up with him.
Billy Turner had over 55 career wins behind the wheel of a sprint car. Still searching for his first behind the wheel of an ASA car. It doesn't look like it's coming tonight. Hawkeye Downs 300. More coming your way right after this. The AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN is brought to you in part by your GM Goodwrench Service dealer. We want your business. Today Burns.
Guys, this is not good news. Look at the tire that came off of Mike Eddy's right rear tire. It is just shredded. And every other pit crew chief was down here looking at it just to find out which tire was that and exactly what went on. And this is just not good. It's too soft. Now, Gary St. Amant, there is no problem with his smoking. They say it's only when there is no fire in the muffler. In other words, there's unspent fuel that's smoking down there. Sandy Heng?
Well, I tell you what, Steve Holzhausen also came in. He had a right rear tire that first they thought was going down. They figured out it was only a rub. Also on the front right tire, so they straightened out a little bit of body work, and he was down and away.
Tough break for Holzhausen. Finished 4th or better. He won the inaugural race here in 1994. Hansen trying to record his first victory. Has been one of the 2 leaders we've had thus far today.
And we're back to green on lap 37. Holzhausen listed in 29th. Mike Eddy listed in 28th right now.
Yeah, Holzhausen had to come in twice during that pit stop. Mike Eddy pitted, as did Buddy Schrock, who had a right front tire go down as soon as the caution came out. So, as luck would have it, Schrock was running 8th, came in, made the change, had to start in the rear, but he's got fresh right side tires on lead lap, which was important to get it under caution.
Good battle brewing for second place. The car on the bottom side, car number 1, Kevin Sawinski, the reigning points leader, trying to take over second place from Brad Loney. And they have a section of grandstands here called the Loney Bin. And they each time we come up here with the AC-Delco Challenge Series Tour, which is twice a season, they have a different theme for their section. Tonight it's Christmas in July. They even came equipped with a gentleman dressed up well, actually, it might be the real Santa Claus. And here's a fight for 10th. 3 cars battling it out here. Steve Carlson in the 87, Bob Seneker in the blue 84, and the red and white number 6 of Dave Sensiba battling back after knee surgery this week.
Sensiba had a crash at I-70 Speedway with Mike Miller while running for 4th position. That actually severely bruised his right knee and had to go under the arthroscopic and laser surgery technique this past Tuesday. He did also have a problem with his kneecap on his right knee, and that's obviously the gas pedal. He can move his leg maybe 2 inches off the floorboard with his heel using the special brace they have on his knee.
And a spin over in turn number 1. That is car number 95. Chuck Hemmingson, the road racer, has had a successful career in SCCA competition. Spins it over in turns 1 and 2. We'll take a quick break while they get the field lined back up. Can Brad Loney's crew get him to victory? We'll find out. Pit stops getting set to be made here as we are under the yellow flag at Hawkeye Downs. Brad Loney, Mike Miller, and Mike Kofer all making their way down pit road. And you're looking at the crew in Brad Loney's pit. A fuel pump, by the way, was a problem for the 56 of Brett Bell. Dave Burns?
Ralph, they're going to the right side of the Bun Saver Flex Steel Pontiac, getting fuel in the car as well. And earlier we heard they might have had an overheating problem. Well, it's not that bad. He's running about 220 degrees on the water temperature. They normally like to run about 200. 240, though, is really bad, so they're keeping a close eye on it.
Brad Loney brings the Bun Saver Pontiac back out onto the racetrack. And we will take a quick break as they get them all lined back up. We have just gone back to green here at lap 50 of the Hawkeye Downs Speedway in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. You're watching the American Speed Association live in action on TNN. Scott Hansen leads Kevin Swinski, Gary Santamont, Rick Beebe, and Jack Landis, the top 5 right now. Santamont, that 7 car, holds on to 3rd. Rick Beebe closing in car 23, the yellow machine. And Hansen, who has 3 top 5s, still searching for his first victory of 97. Now this is a fight back for 5th. Steve Carlson on the 8th side, the rookie point leader in car 87. Brandon Sperling banging fenders with the 6 car of Dave Sensiba. West Michigan Auto Auction number 6 of Sensiba trying to root his way past, but Sperling, the GOAT sunglasses back 51, not able to, well, actually is able to hang on to the spot.
And Brandon's been running extremely well. John Boskin has teamed up with Norm Sperling and Brandon. They've come off an 8th place and a 9th place finish at I-70 in Wisconsin International Raceway. This team is serious about running top 10 every week, and they're earning their stripes, shall we say. But Dave Sensiba, who's well up in the points, and until recent problems, had a consistent run going and was as high as 2nd in the national point standings.
Sensiba takes the position, and you hear his spotter talking to him. And that's going to be tricky for Dave tonight. His normal spotter, Larry Reefer, stayed home in Grand Rapids, Michigan, due to the fact that his mother passed away last night. We, of course, sent all of our condolences from the AC-Delco Challenge Series family to the Reefer family. And so poor Dave now having to get used to a new spotter talking to him. And Jim, that can really be tricky as you watch Junior Hanley moving inside and past Ted Smokestad in a fight inside the top 15 for 11.
And Junior Hanley has progressed nicely. He started back in 23rd position, so Hanley might not have had the best qualifying lap, but that Kendall Oil Chevrolet is certainly picking his way through the field nicely. He and Joe Knott now off of turn number 4. Knott has to drift high. Just a few laps ago, Joe Knott was moving around Bob Sedeker. Knott now starting to back up a little bit, and that Valvoline Raby forward.
Boy, Junior on a tear. Look at this. His nickname used to be Mad Dog, and he hasn't exactly been that fierce so far this season.
He was bumping and grinding to IRP. He was one of the 3 drivers coming across for a photo finish for 4th place, and Mike Miller didn't really like what was going on, but I was thinking and hoping that wasn't the last we saw of a very fiery and competitive Junior Hanley.
Mike Garvey, the red, white, and blue patriotically painted number 8, a 2-time winner on the tour, came from dead last to win at Pensacola, Florida, and then picked up another victory at I-70.
That Truck Country Chevrolet, Pontiac, has the nation's colors on there. Car owner Jerry Gunderman had a great response a year ago, and Scott Hansen's car sported America's flag, and they redesigned the car a little bit, but boy, it certainly has helped Garvey. He won the race at I-70 with that paint job, and certainly is looking stout tonight.
Boy, look at Smokestad sticking into the corner. That's a fight for about 11th position. And now Garvey comes past Nod, and now Harold Fair comes past Nod, and Bill Baird in the 30th anniversary car slips coming off the turn, but will try to fight his way past, and does. Ow, boy, they're all coming by. Now Tim Sauter tries to take a look, but not finally is able to slip down to the bottom. That bottom groove, oh so important here at Hawkeye Downs.
Tim Sauter started 22nd. He's up to 16th. Other drivers that have been moving through the field, Junior Hanley now rides 10th after that 23rd starting position we mentioned just a minute ago. And Steve Carlson's up to 6th place. He started 15th as we watch this battle.
Joe Knott having serious problems in the Valvoline Raby Ford. Car number 48. Joe going to get his first Busch Grand National start coming up on the first weekend of August. And IRP is going to drive Mac Martin's number 92 Busch car. Andy Bozell, car number 83, who won the consolation race earlier tonight, having his best run in an ASA car so far this season, will be the next one who will try to work his way past Joe Knott. This is now for 16th position.
Boy, Joe Knott has certainly drifted back as the field continues to pass him lap by lap.
And look at Mike Eddy. Remember, he was all the way back to 29th when we went back to green. So he is already 13 cars past that and charging back up towards the front of the field. The 7-time champ charging towards the front.
He did start 8th, but he came in and pitted. He had a blistered and chunked out right rear tire. They've got brand new Goodyear Eagles on that car, and he certainly is slicing his way through. The 64 car, the Ricky Bilderback, 2-time Rockford Speedway champion, making his initial ASA start. He also pitted with Mike Eddy and has continued to stay right with the 7-time ASA champ.
Mike works to the bottom side of Joe Knott, roots his way past, and will take over the position. 16th is Mike Eddy. As Mike Eddy has led well over 16,000 laps in AC-Delco Challenge Series competition. That's just a staggering fact.
All-time leader in that category, all-time, I believe, money leader. He and Bob Cedar keep going back and forth depending on race finishes because they have been competing in this series nearly the entire 30 years of AC-Delco Challenge Series racing. American Speed Association celebrating its 30th year. Mike Eddy, one of the few drivers in the current era of the American Speed Association to start each and every race since the car change in 1992. He and Brad Loney, as well, are the two, I believe, of 4 drivers that have competed in every race since the ASA changed over to this body style in this race car.
Lapping through some of the slower traffic is this big pack of cars. Mike Kofer stuck on the bottom, the Black & Decker 79. The 18 and the 33 at pit, and it looks like Kofer is maybe going to be thinking about making his way down pit road. Doesn't look like the Black & Decker car running the way he wants it to right now. Mike all the way back in 30th position. Really enjoyed kicking field goals with Mike. Taught me a lot about the technique involved with it. And our leaders coming through this pack right now. You see Scott Hansen getting set to put Mike a lap down. And Alec Pincino just in front of him as well, the trim class number 93.
34 cars started this race. Kofer running 30th now gets a lap down to Scott Hansen, the leader since lap 14. We're not working lap 70. So between Hansen and Sawinski, they traded the lead just once. And Hansen now has the point by himself as they make their way through traffic, which does help Scott Hansen. Sawinski certainly was closing in, but now through that traffic, Hansen has a little bit of an edge.
First, second, and third, you look at them, Sawinski and Beebe fighting for second place right now as we work our way closer towards the halfway point of the Hawkeye Downs 300. 72 laps completed, and we'll be back to Cedar Rapids, Iowa for more from the Heartland right after this. Big problems for the car that was running in third place, Rick Beebe, the number 23. He actually continues to hold on to third, but you can see the damage to the front of the St. Louis gear, number 23. That Pontiac went right into the back of Kevin Sawinski, who was hard under the brakes to avoid running into the back of Scott Hansen, who, Jim, was avoiding a slower car.
Joe Knott had drifted all the way back to 28th position when the leaders are coming up on him into turn number 1. The 52 is Hansen. Now watch Joe Knott. He's the red car just ahead of Hansen. As he comes down the racetrack, Hansen had to hit the brakes. Sawinski did get into the backside of Hansen, but the yellow 23, definitely suffered the worst there as he was closing in on Sawinski through traffic. And there we see the damage on the 23, the St. Louis Royal Machine Pontiac. And Kevin Sawinski has slight damage as well. His hood is kicked up just a bit at the windshield. You can see that the hood does not match the fender on the left front of that Pontiac.
And Gary St. Amant might have been the luckiest one of them all in that bunch. He was running right behind them in 4th, and he just went high enough to avoid them.
Boy, luck has been on Gary St. Amant's side. At Indianapolis Raceway Park, Bob Seneca and Rick Beebe were going for the lead when they got together. St. Amant then, running 3rd, ducked to the bottom, avoided that incident on the backstretch, and went on to win that race.
That is not a pass for position. Andy Buzzell in the 83 runs in 24th. Sawinski moving on past. Beebe trying to do the same. Buzzell has missed a few races. Good to have that car back on the tour. Last time we saw them was in the Michigan swing.
Right when the Detroit Red Wings swept the Stanley Cup playoffs at Berlin Raceway, he sported the Detroit Red Wings logo on the C-pillar of his Chevrolet.
You're just not going to let me forget that, are you?
No. You talk about your Super Bowl San Francisco 49ers, and you're a Philadelphia Flyer fan, so there is some balance in the world of sports. Just so happens you can't win everything.
And you cannot accuse me of being a bandwagon fan either.
No.
Steve Carlson's Trop Arctic 87. Trying to close in on St. Amant.
Chuck Hemmingson spins through the grass in the back straightaway, and it brings out the caution. But boy, what a slide job he did right through that freshly cut grass on the backstretch here at Hawkeye Downs, and that's his second spin today. First start in 1997. I believe it's his first start in 2 seasons with the AC-Delco Challenge Series.
Some fiberglass work needed on the nose. Bodies on the AC-Delco Challenge Series all come from 5-star. They're all fiberglass bodies. And they all fit the exact same template as the street car. If you took your template off of a Pontiac Grand Prix in the showroom, put it on that race car, it would fit perfectly. Kind of a unique concept the way these cars are built. They all run the 9-to-1 V6 motor. The Firebird pace car, of course, out now picking up Scott Hansen. This coming out on lap 86, and looks like some of these guys might be making their way down pit road, including some of the leaders. This is a big break for Sawinski and Beebe. They desperately needed this to get their cars checked out, and it'll be interesting to see what adjustments Hansen makes to his car. Gary St. Amant, I would think, needed this as well. We had reports of smoke coming out of the back of the 7.
The biggest concern for that 23 car is right where that air inlet is on the front nose. That is pushed in. The air box that cools the radiator and brings air into the engine compartment is bent as well. It might be a limited deal here trying to stay on lead lap for the 23 car, but I'm sure they have their duct tape panels ready to go as they come down pit lane.
Everybody taking advantage of this yellow. And Dave Burns is there to cover Scott Hansen's stop.
Here's our leader, Scott Hansen, trying to win his first AC-Delco Challenge Series race of this season. They go to the right side. According to crew chief Lynn Miller, they're going to make no changes to the handling of the 52. Scott likes it, and he's out of here in a hurry.
Hansen tries to beat Sawinski out, and it looks like maybe Sawinski got it. We'll have to let the ASA officials make the ruling on that. We'll have it for you when we come back. We'll let you know exactly where everybody will be lined up as we go back to green at Hawkeye Downs. Lights are off on the AC-Delco Challenge Series Pontiac Firebird pace car. That means we're coming back to green. Kevin Sawinski, your leader in car number 1. St. Amant, Carlson, and Smokestad, your top 5. Sensiba picked up 2 spots during that pit stop. His crew did a wonderful job. He now moves up to 6. Beebe Garvey and Brandon Sperling and Steve Holzhausen hanging on in 10th position. Horrible round of stops for Brad Loney.
Brad Loney exiting the pit area, did make contact with Mike Eddy. The fans didn't like it, nor did Brad Loney. He's dropped back to 14th.
Challenge for the lead. Scott Hansen to the inside. The Schrader Racing Monte Carlo moves up a position and takes the lead once again. Kevin Sawinski slides back to 2nd, and now we'll deal with Gary St. Amant in his rearview mirror.
Kevin Sawinski once again the first car out on pit lane. The pit stalls again this week because it is a one-day program were chosen the week previous based on car owner points. He's leading the point standings as Sawinski, so they got the number 1 stall or the first choice of any stall. He picked the first stall. He beat out Scott Hansen, who had to pit 5th on the infield portion of the racetrack where they do all the pit stops, and he had to come out guns a-blazing to keep up with Sawinski. Sawinski did, however, get the lead back, and he's led, as Kevin Sawinski, in each of the races with one exception. So he's led in 9 of 10 races this year.
That was the 5th lead change of the night. 1 point last week, we had 5 lead changes in 6 laps. Last week, of course, Wisconsin International Raceway, WIR, over in Kaukauna, Wisconsin. The ASA Tour will get a week off next week after quite a few consecutive weeks of racing before we pick up again live on TNN in 2 weeks from La Crosse Speedway, La Crosse, Wisconsin.
A number of these teams will make the trek there. Ted Smokestead, Johnny Spa, Steve Carlson have raced a lot of laps here at Hawkeye Downs, but also have as many or more laps as Kevin Noodleman's a 6-time track champ at La Crosse. So we'll see a number of these drivers that have run partial schedules with ASA competing again 2 weeks from now at La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway.
That's one of the changes I think we've seen in recent years with the ASA. It used to be we'd pick up new names and faces when we raced in Michigan or Wisconsin, but now that we've changed a little bit and we're into Iowa and we're into sections of Wisconsin that border Iowa and Minnesota, we actually pick up more drivers here at Cedar Rapids and at Kaukauna and at La Crosse than we used to see.
And the AC-Delco Challenge Series travels twice here for the 2nd year in a row, and there were 9 drivers that ASA had not seen prior to today trying to make the race. So now 70 drivers have attempted to make an AC-Delco Challenge Series race in 1997.
Steve Carlson is having no problems making a race. He currently sits 4th in the race. There he is, car number 87, the Trop Arctic back Pontiac, and he is also the Pat Schauer Rookie of the Year points leader as a battle for the lead heats up again just in front of Carlson. St. Amant, there you see him. He runs in 3rd. And look at 4 cars fighting for the lead as Sawinski comes inside St. Amant. And for the 6th time, we will change the lead tonight. The rumor mill buzzing a little bit that maybe we're going to see a name on the side of that number 1 in recent coming weeks.
Great sponsor with Mike Cope for the Black & Decker VersaPack effort, getting behind his Chevrolet. Full show car program, St. Amant Racing, the official team owners, and certainly looking for a better run tonight. We'll have to see if he can get things turned around on La Crosse Speedway.
Sandy, has he had that car handling right yet?
Well, they've made a sway bar adjustment and a shock adjustment. Joining me now is Jamie Neville, his crew chief. They've got a lot of things going on with the tires. What's your make on this tire wear?
Well, it looks to me like the rubber's separating from the casing on this. We had one happen earlier in practice today. We took it to the Goodyear truck, and they said they'd seen a few of those. It looks to me like maybe the tires are too soft for the racetrack. Mike noticed the tire getting erratic, or the car was acting very erratic after about 15 or 20 laps on the racetrack. So I'm going to assume this tire started blistering early on. Fortunately, Goodyear made a good enough tire that it held together for us, but it was sure tough for him to drive.
What's Mike saying now after this last round of pit stops?
Well, it's taken him about 8 or 10 laps to get some more confidence in the car because he was so uncomfortable with this tire, but I think he's starting to pick up the pace now, and hopefully we don't have any more newness today.
That's Jamie Neville wrenching for Mike Cofer.
Mike, a former winner on NASCAR's Southwest Tour and former Rookie of the Year in that division out on the West Coast when he got done with his stint as a place kicker for the San Francisco 49ers, now trying out the AC-Delco Challenge Series. And our leaders closing in to put Mike another lap back. Scott Hansen, Gary St. Amant giving chase to Kevin Sawinski, who leads this one right now with 105, make that 106 laps in the book as they cross the stripe. Kevin Sawinski leads them here at Hawkeye Downs Speedway. Hawkeye Downs 300. Fifth caution flag of the night, just waving as Alec Pinsonneau spins the Trim Blast Pontiac. Canadian driver will straighten her out coming out of turn number 2.
And Mike Miller, the automotive goop adhesive and sealant car, was involved with that as well.
This will be an opportunity for some of those teams to maybe take a look at that tire situation. If you're a first-time viewer of the AC-Delco Challenge Series, Goodyear is the tire of choice. It is a spec tire on this series, but it is not a radial like you see in some other stock car divisions. They run a bias ply tire, which runs approximately about $100 a corner compared to the $1,300 a set that you see for the radial tire. So it's a great cost-saving feature for these drivers, and I think if everybody's running on the same tires, that's perfect.
And under any caution, only 2 tires can be changed, with the exception of super speedway. So that keeps the cost even further down, where teams that are well-financed will change 4 tires every chance they get. ASA says we want to make it fair for everybody, only 2 per caution.
Now, Sawinski and Beebe stay out, but Hansen and St. Amant will take advantage of the 5th caution. Dave?
Gary St. Amant is coming into the pits. He was running up in the top 3, and they're going to go to the left side to try to give him some better rubber there. The report around the pits is just as Jamie Neville had said. They're really concerned about the way the rubber is adhering to the inner part of the tire, and they're going to try to change as much as possible. Right behind Gary, Mike Miller was having problems with power steering. They lost the power steering belt on the opening lap. They've always got a spare linked up to the top, but they have not been able to get it down yet. We'll check and see if they got it this time.
So the Wins Automotive machine back out onto the racetrack with a new set of tires on the car. We'll be right back for more from Hawkeye Downs after this. We are back to Hawkeye Downs Speedway, and courtesy of the folks at Racing Electronics, we've got Dave Senspa, Brad Loney, and Steve Carlson all wired up so that we can talk to them tonight. Let's check in with Dave Senspa, who currently runs in 12th position. Dave, Ralph Shaheen from TNN, can you hear me?
Hey, go ahead, Ralph.
Dave, 2 quick questions for you. How is your knee doing tonight, and what's the situation with the tires? How do you feel with them tonight?
My knee's feeling fine. We're just going to try to ride it out. The tires are really going away. We blistered the right rear. Our left sides look really good. If I had to pit a couple more times for right.
All right, David, thank you, and best of luck to you as you get set to go back to green.
Thank you.
Let's go check in with Sandy Hang with more of the story.
Well, we're seeing up and down pit lane, in and out. We've got a few blistering problems with other tires. Everyone's saying that the right sides are real tough. The left sides have been wearing just great.
Well, of course, the right side of the tire, right side of the car, taking most of the abuse on the tires. And with more on Mike Miller, who's been in and out with the Goop car, is Dave.
Ralph, they had it jacked up. They tried to get that power steering belt back on the car. The pace car was coming around, about to put him a lap down. They let the jack down, tried to get the car refired, and when they did, they still had a jack stand underneath. He barely made it out. ASA is scoring him on the tail end of the lead lap.
And we're back to green with Kevin Sawinski out front of Rick Beebe, Brandon Sperling, Tim Sauter, and Bill Baird, your top 5. Noodleman in the Citgo 21. You caught a glimpse of him. Runs back in 23rd. Your top 5 all breaking away now from the rest of the pack, and you see them there. Sauter trying to make a run up the inside of Brandon Sperling for 3rd. Sauter is they've gone back to basics with that car, and he really feels like he has gotten a handle on it. And he's getting into a situation, Jim, where they're coming to racetracks where Tim Sauter really feels comfortable. He's done quite a few laps here at this venue, and then La Crosse coming up on the schedule, one he is very comfortable with.
Certainly is, and he certainly was welcomed back not only by his family to Wisconsin International Raceway, but really was a welcome relief for this 55-car team. They're actual true rookies running out of Ed O'Hilsky's shops in Brookfield, Wisconsin, just west of Milwaukee. Finally came back home for a race. You see the flames on the nose. He earned those in a fired IRP. But this team has really put together a strong effort. Currently in the, I believe, 13th in points heading into this race in the Ware Chevrolet Pontiac. And Sauter is certainly impressive here tonight.
in an incident where he was hit by Doug Mayer. The car erupted into flames, and the next week at the shop, Tim went out for lunch, came back after lunch, and the crew had painted flames on the nose of his car. He said, that's the last time I take an extended lunch.
He had a heartbreaking 13th place finish 1 week ago. He was running in the top 5 when they had a tire go down with about 20 laps to go. And unfortunately, the finish on the what you find in the newspaper on Sunday morning is not actually representative of the effort that this 55-car team had 1 week ago at Wisconsin International.
We hear now out of the pits that they did get the belt on for Mike Miller, so the power steering has returned to the Goop Pontiac. Brandon Sperling just in front of Tim Sauter, holds on to third, doing a great job. The driver who hails from Southern California now makes Concord, North Carolina, or actually Mooresville, North Carolina, his home. Doing a tremendous job behind the car, number 51. Goat Sunglasses coming on to sponsor Brandon now. He is ASA's latest version of Mark Martin, a real workout fanatic. Doing a good job holding on to third, and consistency is really, I think, the thing Brandon is lacking, not just in his performances on the racetrack, but in the performances of his machine. He's been on the tour for a couple of years now, and he's never really seemed to have the right kind of equipment to show what he can do, and I think he is getting that now.
His car is based out of Ohio. We mentioned he lives in Mooresville, but John Boskin, who had for many years worked with Dr. Yo Conley out of Glen Allen Jr. shops, continues to work out of those shops, but Brandon and Norm Sperling came to an agreement with Glen Allen. So now this black 51 car is prepared out of John Boskin's shop near Cincinnati, but a great job for this team, again, coming off 2 top 10 finishes.
Here's a familiar sight to any ASA fan. Bob Seneker's Bluebird, the 84, the Ford Thunderbird, and the Polar Bear, Mike Eddy, the 88, going at it. This is a fight for 18th position. Joe Knott and Buddy Schrock coming along to watch. Eddy to the outside. Boy, we haven't seen many passes made up there tonight. And the Polar Bear takes advantage of the outer groove and takes the position away from the sneaker. Buddy Schrock, the Big A Auto Parts, number 35, is in 20th position. Joe Knott credited with 24.
Joe Knott came in twice on the last caution, and Alec Benzino spun on the front straightaway in the Trim Class Mold Class Pontiac.
That brings out the yellow again. I believe that is our 6th yellow of the night, coming out on lap 129.
Mention the compound banking of the racetrack. It's only 5 to 7 degrees banking, but that compound banking does sometimes fool you. If you do come extremely low off of turn number 4, it gives you a false sense of banking because it's 5 degrees on the inside, 7 on the outside. I think Alec just kind of got crossed up coming off of turn 4 where there's a slight elevation up to the front stretch.
He has struggled with this car all night. He even spun in his qualifying attempt earlier today. So the Pontiac Firebird pace car is back out. Kevin Sawinski will tuck in behind him. Well, the AC-Delco Challenge Series is just a part of another big weekend in motorsports, and to get you caught up on everything that's happened, tune in to Race Day. Rick Benjamin has all the highlights Sunday at noon Eastern right here on TNN Motorsports. Jam-packed crowd here at Cedar Rapids for the first of 2 shows this season with the ASA Tour at this fine facility known as Hawkeye Downs. Kurt Martin has brought the 43 car down pit road to get service.
Current point leader here in the weekly racing at the Hawkeye Downs Speedway. Super late models is what they run each and every week here, Saturday nights, and unfortunately they've had some problems with that number 43 Ford, the aggregates, Finnegan's RV Center Ford.
Brad Loney is a driver who has had great success at this track, but tonight he's struggling, Sandy.
Well, his team has been scrambling behind the scenes here. His tire man just ran down the field, went to Johnny Spa's team, asked to buy a few tires. They did. Tire man says, hey, we need a few more right side tires. They're wearing harder than we thought.
This is a crew that set a record this season for 47 races without a DNF. And it's an all-time stock car record covering every division of stock car racing across the country. And it's an amazing feat, and they should really be congratulated. 47 straight races.
And they're celebrating their 100th ASA start here tonight in front of the hometown crowd.
More from the pits, David.
Ralph, when Rick Beebe had the problem earlier that crunched up the front end, Jim speculated that perhaps the airbox was damaged. The temperatures are actually okay. They're pretty happy in his pit. The problem has been that he cannot see over the front end of the hood. Now, it's not as bad as it used to be, but vision may be the continuing problem for Rick Beebe. Gary St. Amant came in that time, changed right side tires, as did Mike Miller and also Scott Hansen.
The most important piece of tape this team had put on this number 23 car is right in front of the windshield where it meets up with the fender. That has held the hood down to allow Rick Beebe to see. They don't use hammers on these bodies because they're fiberglass, so it's human muscle and duct tape to hold these bodies together once they come apart.
We're green. Peter Cozzolino, the McDonald's Ford, car number 40 up to third, and it's nice to see the USAC Sprint Car star having a good run here in one of just his first few starts in ASA competition, a teammate to Joe Knott. Only his fourth start behind the wheel of an ASA car. And Ted Smokestack, who's also done a lot of laps here, giving him quite a run.
Peter Cozzolino did a great job at Indianapolis Raceway Park the last ASA race he was in. He qualified 11th and finished up 10th. Peter also took the entire 1996 racing season off to be a crew member for Joe Knott. As part of their arrangement, he said, hey, I'll work with you guys each and every race weekend, at nights, during the week at the shop, and maybe I can get some sponsorship together, 5 to 7 races. And Peter Cozzolino continues to run very strongly here in front of a crowd that's taken notice of that big yellow M on the hood of his number 40.
Leaders up front. Cedar giving chase to Beebe. Working him hard. Cozzolino loose coming off of turn number 2. See that rear end dancing out on the McDonald's Ford. Smokestack now making the move to the inside of Cozzolino on the front straightaway. He will take over the position, and a whole host coming with him, including Dave Sensiba, Steve Carlson, Brad Loney, Junior Hanley. Cozzolino looks like he's got handling problems as that car really dances around on him. Carlson and Loney now trying to get inside of Sensiba. Mike Eddy coming along as well, getting inside of Cozzolino, and Buddy Schrock will slide by, and Cozzolino dropping deeper and deeper. He is all the way back to 9th.
Peter's only made one pit stop on lap 86, so you know his tires are beginning to wear a little bit further. The cars going by him did pit about 30 laps ago for right side tires, so it is a tire situation that's bumping Cozzolino back through the field.
Well, we had mentioned it earlier tonight that Smokestack would be one to keep an eye on, and he is doing a good job all the way up to 3rd now. Oh, and Sensiba goes around, and we stack him up.
Kevin Noodleman rubbed the outside wall trying to get by as he and Bob Seneca sneaked on through, and
come on, catch up with the pace car.
that's the exact location where he spun at I-70 Speedway off of turn number 4. This time he kept it off the wall.
You can hear Sensiba's crew yelling at him and talking to him, telling him to get up behind the pace car so he doesn't lose a lap. That right rear tire down. The West Michigan Auto Auction car.
Get it in here. We're coming. We're going around again.
Dave trying to limp it around again.
What the crew chief is telling him to get up near the pace car, because if you assemble to the inside, you don't lose that much track position. If you get up next to the pace car, they'll let you go. Cozzolino and Sensiba make contact here off of turn 4. Sending Sensiba around, and we'll take another look at here from the speedy camera underneath the flag stand. Sensiba already around, but that Cozzolino number 40 car might have found some grip on the outside, and he and Sensiba made contact. Keep your eye on the middle of the screen here, right? The second pack of cars here as Sensiba comes off the turn. I don't know if Cozzolino was close enough there, Ralph.
I'm not sure either, Jim. I'd like to see that first replay again if the boys back in the truck can wind the tape back up for us again.
He may have had a puncture as quickly as that car spun.
I can't tell from that one. The first one had a great great look at it. We'll get a look at it when we come back out of commercial break, and that'll give the boys back in the truck to get a chance to get it rewound for you. Let's take a look at it. Meanwhile, Dave Sense was getting some new tires, and we'll be right back. We are halfway through the scheduled 300 laps here at Hawkeye Downs Speedway. We're in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, bringing you live coverage of the AC-Delco Challenge Series on this beautiful Friday night from the Heartland. And let's take a look at this replay with Dave Sensiba again. If there was contact, Jim, it was very light just there seconds ago, and our great TNN cameras, of course, catching it.
We'll take one more look at it here. Dave Sensiba coming off of turn number 4. It looked like the car was already starting to get crossed up when Cozzolino touched him. That right rear tire sure popped the bead quickly to get that flat. I'm thinking the tire might have been going down heading into the turn.
He didn't hit him hard, that's for sure, but it was enough to send him around and really let that tire go. Dave?
Well, you guys are exactly right. No contact. It was all tire. Here's the puncture right here on Dave's tire that sent him spinning around. So he was already in trouble before he and Cozzolino started racing hard.
Rick Beebe continues to lead. Tim Sauter, Ted Smokestad, Steve Carlson, and Brad Loney, your top 5. Junior Hanley having a good run. One of the greatest stock car drivers ever out of Canada. There he is, driver of the Kendall Oil Port City, number 72. Runs in 6th position. Steve Holzhausen, Harold Fair, Buddy Schrock, and Kevin Sawinski. Rounding out the top 10. 30 cars still running here tonight. 20 of them on the lead lap.
And Rob, it's really been a matter of track positioning and pit stops. If you want to come in, you can. Mike Eddy has come back in on that last caution. Peter Cozzolino, as did Brandon Sperling. They were all running in the top 10, but they needed to come in to make a pit stop. Rick Beebe, the leader here in the yellow 23, St. Louis Gear Pontiac, has stayed out on the racetrack the last 2 cautions, as has his competitor right now for the moment, the 55 of Tim Sauter. So these guys are planning on going longer distances where other teams are still trying to find that match with those tires. They're coming in, making more frequent pit stops, including Kevin Sawinski, Scott Hansen, Gary Santamon, and Mike Miller. They are now mid-pack trying to get back up to the front.
Alec Bitsnow gets a good lap at the fight up front as Beebe, Sauter, and the rest come racing on past. Look at Sauter trying to get to the inside of Beebe as they go in and out of turns 3 and 4. Oh, we got one going around. Car number 43, Martin, having his problems on the backstretch. Kurt Martin, of course, the current track points leader here at Hawkeye Downs. Getting his first start in an AC-Delco Challenge Series event. And he will bring out another caution. That is the 8th one of the evening. Jim, I think it's interesting that everybody we've been watching in the fights up front have been trying to make their passes on the inside. The only one is we watch this replay of Martin getting loose.
Joe Knott right behind. Joe Knott a lap down in 23rd position. Might have skimmed him. There again, we don't know if he was already going around or if Knott just happened to help him as he went off with turn number 2.
I was going to say, we've seen all the guys up front trying to make their passes to the inside. We have seen that you can make a pass on the outside. Mike Eddy, the only driver who was willing to venture out there. Sandy Hang has more from the pits.
Well, Jamie Ham, he's the crew chief for Pete Cozzolino. That incident before, what did Pete say happened when he was riding behind Sensiba?
He thought that Dave either foot slipped off the gas or just let off the gas for some reason. He got into him. He said he didn't do it intentionally, but we hope there's no hard feelings. And he did get around us after that restart, and he did it clean.
I know you're just talking to him on the radio. What was he saying about the car?
He said the car's pretty good right now, but we're going to do a panhard bar adjustment on our next stop when we get tires, and it should make them better. We're just looking at track position here.
Okay, that's Jamie Ham, crew chief for Pete Cozzolino.
We had mentioned Kevin Sawinski, Scott Hansen. The early race leaders were up to 10th, 11th, and 12th, along with Mike Eddy. With some of these teams pitting, they'll get more spots and head towards the front.
And we'll be right back for more with the ASA from Hawkeye Downs. Welcome back to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We're in Hawkeye Downs Speedway. American Speed Association enjoying its first of 2 stops here at this great racetrack in Iowa, and something dragging on the left front, the Maisto 07.
With as flat as this racetrack is, my speculation is something to do with the brakes. Something is dragging on the racetrack on Jack Landis's Maisto die-cast scale models Ford, and He may or may not know that, but without front brakes, it's making it that much harder to make the turn. And if it's a suspension component hitting the racetrack on the straightaway, this restart will be an eye-opener for Jack Landis once he gets back under full power.
He's right behind Bob Seneker. Seneker is credited with 11th right now. And Ted Smokestad having a great run. He is in 3rd as we get set to go back to green. Landis is credited with 25th, by the way. Carlson runs in 4th. The white and red 87, and he's challenging Ted Smokestad for 3rd.
According to my calculations, Steve Carlson here in the Trop Arctic Cleanburn Pontiac pitted 60 laps ago for tires. As it cycles through, he's now challenging Ted Smokestad for that 3rd position. We'll see how his tires wear. And again, teams have made 2, even 3 pit stops since Steve Carlson has made his way down pit lane to the attention of Howie Leto.
Billy Turner, the former sprint car star, has now climbed behind the wheel of the number 93 for Alec Pitsnow. You might remember Turner was involved in one of the first cautions of the night, and he has relieved Alec Pitsnow, and you can see Alec a little overheated, taking some oxygen, cooling down.
Successful automotive car owner. The Trim Plast, Mold Plast, and Build a Mold companies are all owned by Alec out of Windsor, Ontario, and certainly loves his racing.
Top 4 continuing to fight as we complete lap 166. There's a very special story for the 32 team of Ted Smokestad. Dave Burns has that.
Yeah, Ralph. When Ted first came on the scene, we heard about it. Young Jacob Wetterling was abducted, and his family has gone to work real hard on getting him back. Recently, his mom went to Washington, D.C., and did you hear about that bill that was passed that now you have to inform if a child molester moves into your neighborhood? Well, Jacob's mom was instrumental in getting that done by lobbying Congress.
Jacob's Hope is the name of the cause, and Ted has always run stickers on his race car supporting it in hopes of finding young Jacob. Steve Carlson running behind him, and look at this. Some drivers trying to find their way to victory lane. The 35 of Buddy Schrock now moving up into 5th position. Steve Holzhausen, the Howes Lubricator, number 5. Behind him, and here comes Kevin Sawinski, who led a tremendous portion of the early stages of this race. Now trying to fight his way past as he roots his way past Holzhausen in a fight for 6th, and Hansen coming right along with him. Kenny Schrader's racing team on the ASA circuit having a pretty good night tonight. They won the pole earlier on in the AC-Delco rapid fire qualification session. Now they're trying to get their way back to the front and maybe challenge for a win.
Hansen picked up $1,000 for winning the pole position, which is up for grabs each and every race, and more importantly for this team, 5 points to the pole winner. Gary St. Amant started outside row, and he was awarded 4 championship points. And look at Mike Eddy in the 88 car. These 3 cars have been running together the last 100 laps or so, and it really plays well for Mike Eddy to run this strong at this point in the race. First 4 races of the year, Ralph, he was already sitting out watching this race from the infield having a Coke because of a mysterious distributor problem, but now, boy, he's had some great runs. Mike Eddy had a 2nd place finish last week. Unfortunately, an accident at I-70, but he had a 2nd and a 3rd place podium finish at Berlin and IRP, so certainly charging his way back through. Currently 10th in points is the 88 of Mike Eddy.
8th, 9th, and 10th, you're watching. Eddy comes past Holzhausen. Mike not exactly loved by this crowd here at Cedar Rapids after an incident with Brad Loney in one of the first races here.
In 1995, Brad Loney stayed out, I believe, at the 130 laps. He had not pitted. He got the lead, had a nice lead going. Mike Eddy had made a pit stop in the meantime and challenged Loney coming down towards the closing laps of the race. They made contact in turn number 1. If these people were in the fruit selling business, this track would have been littered with vegetables and fruit after they got done booing Mike Eddy. That both cars did spin in turns 1 and 2 in the very late laps, but I believe Mr. Eddy came out a little bit higher at the end of that one. In 1995, he did finish up in the 10th position, while Loney came across the line in, I believe, in the 6th spot. So as they got spun around and got respun, they had just enough time to get back in the top 10.
Second in money one, fourth and make that fifth in career poles, number one in career laps led, second in career victories. The 7-time champ, the only man to have won 7 ASA championships, is Mike Eddy. We're going to step away for a second as this one continues. 177 laps in the books. Under yellow once again. This would be number 9 due to an incident over in turn 3. You're looking at Scott Hansen getting serviced. Peter Cozzolino, Mike Garvey, Brandon Sperling, and Junior Hanley. Watch this as we go down into turn 3. Cozzolino in the red car. Bill Baird in the 30 nudged him.
Make contact there, but now the mayhem starts as Junior Hanley hits him square in the nose. Garvey spins to avoid. Great job keeping that car together. And
Noodleman.
The car up top is the 51 of Brandon Sperling. You mentioned he's running top 10, and here's another good look at it. Garvey got spun around by Brandon Sperling just slightly, but it helped Garvey get through the wreck.
And Bill Baird right in the middle of the beginning of it.
Kevin
Noodleman
Noodleman
will stink past.
Skirting through the grass.
Then watch this. The 40 of Cozzolino and the 72 Junior Hanley hooked together, and they can't separate it.
Now, Junior has about 40 years of stock car experience on Peter Cozzolino, making his 4th ASA start. Junior was actually the aggressor there, and they finally got unhooked. I'd say that wasn't the first time Junior got together with somebody and happened to stay together on a caution.
Rick Beebe continues to lead. Let's check in with Dave Burns.
Yeah, Ralph, don't you find it kind of strange that Rick stayed out at this point with all the problems we've been having with tires? But crew chief Derry Garrison says they're not sure they have the car that can win the race outright. They're watching the weather even. It doesn't look that bad to me, but they're kind of playing their cards right now. They want to keep track position and maybe stop one more time as we get into the mid-200s. So for right now, Beebe's just content to lead and not come back through the pack.
I believe he just pitted once on lap 86, Ralph. That's a heck of a long run. We're at lap 183, so nearly 100 laps. Make that 183 laps on the left sides and about 100 on the rights.
Well, with more on car 35 is Sandy Hang.
Well, there was also some contact between Steve Carlson and Buddy Schrock, Don Schrock, crew chief. What happened?
Bud, the 87 car got together when he was passing him up there, and what it did, it moved the steering wheel a quarter turn. Probably what happened, the rack moved over about a quarter inch, and when that happens, the car gets real dirty and it's real hard to drive. I don't know what's going to happen. It happened right before the yellow. We just got to wait to see what happens.
That's Don Schrock, crew chief, for his brother Buddy.
Jim, they mentioned in Rick Beebe's pit potential of watching the weather. Now, I hadn't heard anything about any threatening weather in the area and hadn't seen anything in the skies. All looked pretty good to me.
There's a bit of a fog rolling in off of turn number 4. You get the haze effect there off of the grandstand. We're on the fairgrounds here in Cedar Rapids, and it's a bit hazy. Almost a fog rolling in off of turn number 4. That's been that way about the last half hour, 45 minutes. Doesn't seem to affect the race cars, but as you know, being carbureted cars, the dew point and the humidity have a lot to do with how these cars perform. So I know they're looking for the rain, but it also could affect some of these cars' performance under the hood.
Let's check in once again with Dave.
Guys, Jack Landis was having a pretty good run out there, but you mentioned some sparking that you saw on the car. What happened is they broke a left front eye bolt on the sway bar. That caused the sway bar to drop down, and though he's not in any danger because that sway bar is dragging, the crew said, we feel really bad because it just makes the car really, really loose, and we can't fix it for him.
Buddy Schrock in qualifying had his left front tire lifted off the ground, so this would not be a major factor on this flat 5 to 7 degree banking. So luckily for Jack, we're not at I-70 Speedway or Anderson Speedway where the banking is up 18, 20 degrees. So there's a lot less load of weight on the left front under full speed.
Jack Landis currently runs 24th. Next stop for the ASA Tour, by the way, is La Crosse Speedway, which you'll see live here on TNN in 2 weeks. Tomorrow on TNN Motorsports, it's NASCAR Garage, a half-hour look behind the scenes at the people and the machines of NASCAR racing. Tune in Saturday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. Eastern right here on The Leader, TNN Motorsports. back here in September to enjoy more ASA racing in Hawkeye Downs. And this city, Jim, is really getting in behind the ASA series. Big parties last night and a lot of festivities around the ASA tour here.
A lot of interviews on radio. I believe they had a live television uplink. They still have some television crews here from the local stations. So Larry Kemp and the guys here have really done a great job. Larry Clem, have done an outstanding job of promoting this event. Packed grandstand and a great race to watch.
And Rick Beebe doing a great job out front as we go back to green on lap 188. He leads over Steve Carlson. Bob Seneker now up to third. Brad Loney, Bill Baird, Tim Sauter, Kevin Sawinski, Scott Hansen, Ted Smokestad, and Gary St. Amant, your top 10. Jack Landis in the 07, the blue and white car. Tucking up behind Bob Seneker. And remember, Landis running in 24th. And we got a spin over in turns 3. Mike Garvey and Brad Loney involved in it. And the pack all hard on the brakes.
Harold Fair.
Make that Bill Baird. I said Mike Garvey. They both run the patriotic colors. It's Bill Baird's 30th anniversary car that was involved. There he is. The Speedy Pop 30th anniversary car. And it was definitely the Bun Saver 33 of Brad Loney. That would be the 10th caution.
Now we had a caution at lap 180. This will allow the teams that did pit to get some fresh other side tires. If they came in for lefts, now they'll come in for rights. Only 2 tires allowed per caution, so this is very opportunistic for guys like Mike Eddy, Mike Miller that say they want to come down pit lane. They form up behind the pace car because on any caution, you line up inside of the pace car. It indicates to the rest of the crews that you're going to be pitting. It also gives you that full lap under caution at 45 miles per hour to get your pit stop done on the inside oval here.
Now let's watch this again. You can see Baird right behind Loney at the tail of this pack.
They're right behind Joe Knott going into turn 3. Double spin, and now Harold Fair comes in here as he's trying to make his way through. Another advantage here coming into the third turn. Looks like 30 car of Bill Baird gets right underneath the Bun Saber quarter panel of that Pontiac of Brad Loney, and they go around together. You see now Ted Smokestad, Scott Hansen, and Gary St. Amant getting by on the inside. Harold Fair caught up slightly in that incident. 10 cautions, and Mike Miller.
Dave Sensimus pit is where we find Dave Burns.
Ralph, they're going to the right side, and he almost got together with Mike Miller when they came in. They were nose to tail, and he had to slam on the brakes hard and then had trouble getting the car back down, and Mike Miller's got big problems. Look at the left rear of that car.
15 yellows is the record so far this year, coming back in May at Jennerstown Speedway. This is yellow number 10 that we are working right now. Dave Sensimus back out on the track. Rick Beebe getting challenged from Steve Carlson as we come back to the action here at Hawkeye Downs Speedway. Beebe has gone 194 laps on his left side tires and 108 laps, Jim, on right side tires. Some teams having trouble. No problem with tires right now for Rick Beebe. He's doing a tremendous job of holding on over Steve Carlson, who's trying to catch him in that Trop Arctic 87.
And he's had to overcome the adversity of that body being knocked out of alignment. Dave Burns in the pits reported earlier that he could not see out of the car because the hood was knocked up.
And to the inside comes Carlson into turn 3. Jack Landis in the 07 is a lap car. He runs back in 22nd position, looking to get a lap back. And Beebe now showing maybe the wear on those tires as he slips wide. Joe Knott coming past as well. He runs in 17th. One down. Tim Sauter is the next car behind Beebe. That's now the fight for second. There it is. Kevin Sawinski up to 4th in the black number 1. Hansen 5th in car 52, the white machine behind him. So the cars that were back at the front at the very beginning of this race, Jim, now cycling their way back up to the front.
And Rick Beebe falling back into their clutches as we find that 55 of Tim Sauter getting heavy pressure by Kevin Sawinski for that position. It really has been a train to the front for Sawinski, Hansen, Saint-Amant, and Steve Holtzhausen. They currently hold down the 4th through 7th positions.
9 lead changes on the night.
5 different leaders. Steve Carlson trying to be the 3rd driver for Baker Motorsports to score a win here in 5 events under the direction of Howie Leto. 1994, the winner is Steve Holtzhausen for this team. 1996, Tony Raines won an event here for this very same team that Carlson now has at the point.
We've had as many as 16 lead changes in an event this season. That came at 5 Flag Speedway in Pensacola, Florida, where Mike Garvey went from dead last to win. Halfway to that record here tonight already. Sawinski up onto the backside of Sauter. That team in the 55 going back to basics, and Tim says that car's never been better. He currently runs in 3rd right now and trying to prove that point to Kevin Sawinski, the 2-time winner on the 97 Tour.
Very impressive run for Tim Sauter out of Necedah, Wisconsin.
Of course, Tim's brother Jay will be behind the wheel of Richard Childress's Good Wrench Service Plus truck tomorrow at Louisville. And Tim's father Jim, having had a tremendous career behind the wheel as a competitor in stock car racing, and now as one of the test drivers for the IROC Tour.
Jim Sauter also has 7 career victories in the American Speed Association. He was one of the front runners in the early 80s in the AC-Delco Challenge Series.
Mike Miller has been struggling all night. He's in 29th position with the Goop car. As we watch this fight for 2nd, let's check in with Dave Burns with more on his story.
Ralph, we'll get the word from Mike himself. Mike, what broke on the car?
The trailing arm. When I left the pits, I got on the gas too hard. It just snapped.
Same car, different driver as Alec Pizzano's number 93 with Billy Turner behind the wheel. Now spins, bringing out another yellow.
11th yellow flag of the day. Roger Slack getting a workout on the flag stand. Lap 207 is when we'll find the cars slowed behind the AC-Delco Challenge Series pace car. Now you think, Ralph, Rick Beebe will pit?
Boy, he better.
He lost the lead. Back to 4th, back to 5th. Started the backslide. Terry Garrison made a great call, though. They let a bunch of laps in the middle portion of the race.
Well, there's a car getting a lot of laps up front tonight. Pace car, back out. Don't go away. Plenty more coming your way from Hawkeye Downs. Roger Slack and the rest of the ASA officials all wear their Racing Electronics headsets. And again, this season, you have the opportunity to win a unit in Bearcat and Scatter, along with a 1-year Racers Frequency membership from Racing Electronics. All you have to do is send your name and address on a postcard to Racing Electronics, P.O. Box 241921, Charlotte, North Carolina 28224. And we'll announce the winner during each ASA telecast right here on TNN throughout the year. So send in your card today. Now, this week's winner is Bill Lowe from Brewerton, New York. Congratulations, Bill. Enjoy your scanner from Racing Electronics.
Ralph, on that last caution, Rick Beebe finally pitted, as did Steve Carlson for Right Sides and Brad Loney. Those 3 cars are at the very tail of the field as we get back to green in this single file restart.
Kurt Martin behind the wall, leaking fluid on the 43 as we go back to green. Kevin Sawinski in the 3rd car in the freight train is your race leader.
Joe Knott lost a lap on the racetrack under a long period of green, so he is now fighting to be at the tail end of lead lap. He's the 3rd car behind the pace car on the start, and now we see Scott Hansen, Tim Sauter, Gary Saint-Amant right there with 87 circuits remaining. Sawinski trying to put up race number 3 in the victory column to return to the status of a year ago where he was Kevin Sawinski in his rookie season. 3 victories last year. Already has 2 this year, Ralph. Don't give me that look.
Just along for the ride. Just thinking how tough it's going to be to say that. Sawinski throughout the course of the season if he does win a 3rd one.
Get a look at the bottom half of the screen of where these drivers have come into this race in the points. Joe Knott and Mike Eddy battling for 9th position, not having some troubles tonight. Mike Eddy in this race advancing to 7th at this point in the contest with 215 laps in.
He's right about where he started tonight's race, Jim. He started up 8th position on the qualifying grid. And there's Rick Beebe battling with Mike Garvey. Dave Burns, more on him.
Finally got those new right side tires, Ralph. They had 122 laps on them. Guess when the last time was they changed the left sides? They have not.
Well, as we had said that earlier on, I mean, he's desperately in need of another yellow now to see if he can get some lefts on that car and maybe get back into the hunt.
It was not uncommon a year ago to have these teams go 300 laps on left side tires. However, Goodyear and ASA worked a tire compound out where it would be a softer tire at this racetrack. It was the same compound used a week ago at Wisconsin International Raceway. Teams did see some blistering, so it's very surprising and very promising for the Goodyear engineers that Rick Beebe could go 122 laps on the right sides and the entire contest to this point on the lefts.
He's 15th right now, and you watch the battle for 3rd. The flaming number 55 and Tim Sauter trying to hold off the hard-charging Gary St. Amant. This is a fight for 3rd position. St. Amant trying to get to the inside. Remember, Gary had smoke coming out of the back of the 7 in the early stages of this race, Jim. We have not heard any reports of any problems developing there, and Gary seems to be trucking right along.
With this being a one-day show, teams come in, they unload at 9 a.m. They may have had some mechanical things that they had to get to that perhaps maybe caused some oil to spill, just caused a little bit of smoking early on, because as you can see, St. Amant certainly is up to the task right on the back bumper of that 55 Ware Chevrolet Pontiac of Tim Sauter.
St. Amant, a 2-time winner on the Tour in '97. Victories coming at Tri-City Speedway and Indianapolis Raceway Park, bringing 2 victories to car owner Bud Gavin, the first 2 car victories that Bud has had in ASA competition. Ted Smokestad and Dave Sensiba going at it as well. Smokestad holds on to 8th. Sensiba now will take that spot away, and here comes Harold Fair from 10th to try to challenge for 9th now. The AC-Delco Car Quest number 81.
Another classic Harold Fair race. He almost got involved in an incident with a spin over in turn 3. He's got a couple of donuts on the side of his number 81. You can tell there going into the turn. But a great race for Harold Fair. Comes into this event 8th in points, now running in 10th position. He's back on his own with his son Harold Fair Jr. making the calls in the pits.
He's got 5 top 10 finishes, and he's well on his way to another one here tonight. Out of the Motor City comes Harold Fair, hailing from Detroit, Michigan. Bill Baird. We got him going around over in turn 4. It's Joe Knott, who spins right in front of our leader, Kevin Sawinski. He avoids him, as does the rest of the field. Now you would think Rick Beebe would take advantage of this. With 224 laps completed, he might come in under the 12th caution of the night to take on those left side tires that have not been changed. This race scheduled for 300 laps. He has gone 225 laps on those left side tires on that yellow 23. He's down on the bottom groove. Looks like he's headed for pit lane.
See these drivers passing to the inside. They're all forming up behind the pace car to indicate they're coming into the pit. So when the pit lane, which is now closed, opens up, these guys have got a chance to come on down. Now Kevin Sawinski's working the backside of Joe Knott the last 10 laps. Once we got back to green flag racing, at this point in the race, Sawinski wanted to go inside of Knott. They made contact. Joe Knott was at the tail end of lead lap. Sawinski a tad bit frustrated, I would say, going into turn number 3, trying to get the inside line away from Knott, and Joe goes around.
TNN cameraman doing a great job of catching all the action for you. Look at the smoke as Joe lights up the hides on the 48.
Sawinski rubbed him just enough to get him around, but as the car is going backwards, his wheels are still spinning forward, so Knott tried to spin himself out of it and go do a 360 without getting in the way of anybody.
Hansen getting past as well.
Rick Beebe will be among the drivers heading down pit lane for fresh tires.
Harold Fair, Bill Baird, and Dave Sensiba will join him there. Joe Knott stayed out. He'll come around the next time by, I would think.
Cars that are down a lap, or seeing that he was a lap car at that point.
Dave Burns will cover the stop on Dave Sensiba.
Dave Sensiba's Engineered Polymer Products, Port City Grand Prix. On the right side, they're going to it. Right behind him, Rick Beebe is getting those left side tires on his St. Louis Gear Pontiac. They're in and out of here. Harold Fair as well, making a pit stop.
And Dave will return to the action here tonight. 12 cautions, 16 the record for 1997, working lap 227. Hopefully we won't see any more of the yellow between now and the end of the race.
That was Dave Sensiba's 6th time down pit lane, unofficially.
There's some of the loony bin. Hold on, Brad Loney here. Tough night for that car. The Goop-backed Pontiac of Mike Miller. AFC 1000 entry up on jack stands once again. They've been working on it all night long, trying to get him back out onto the racetrack. Kevin Sawinski, Scott Hansen, Gary St. Amant, all leading them back to the green.
The cycle has come full circle. Kevin Sawinski and Scott Hansen dominated the early laps. At the point, took them quite a while to get back to the front, but as they make their charge through the pits, staying out on the racetrack, doing the strategy game that is so important with the tire wear and the tire stagger. Sawinski's crew chief, Mike Chaffee, also has a very good understanding of the adjustable shocks used in ASA racing. Scott Hansen does a lot of the chassis work himself and talks to his tire man and crew chief, Lynn Miller, constantly on the radio, talking about stagger.
And to give you an idea of what kind of a season Sawinski has had, he's had 5 straight top 5 finishes and 4 consecutive podium finishes coming into this race here in Cedar Rapids to go along with 2 wins. What an amazing year, the man who leads the point standings.
Worst finish is 9th in 9 races.
And remember, last year, folks, he was a Pat Schauer Rookie of the Year winner. Mike Eddy up to 5th. Could this be the night that the Polar Bear finds his way to victory lane in 97? Here he comes challenging for 4th inside of Tim Sauter. Nice, smooth pass to the inside. Mike Eddy, the only driver, remember, that we have seen make passes on the inside and the outside lanes here tonight.
Mike Miller now rejoins the chase. Now he heads back down pit lane, so he just went by the scoring stripe just once. So continuing problems in Mike Miller's number 18 pit.
Let's see how long it takes Mike Eddy to reel in this pack of 3. Sawinski, Hansen, and St. Amant just in front of him. This would be career victory 56, I believe, for Mike Eddy. Second
55.
on that list.
We're getting corrections here from our crack storing staff.
Torch would know. Torch says it's 55. It is 55.
Bob Seneca has 82 career victories. The 3rd on the list is Butch Miller, who we saw in action in Wisconsin International Raceway last Friday night. Came up to finish 8th in Jim Daly's Gillen number 2. And good to see Butch back in ASA racing. And he's 3rd on the all-time career list. Dick Triple right up there as well. And Hansen trying to get, I believe, his 16th career victory if he can put it in victory lane tonight.
Howard Thomas up on top of the box watching Mike Eddy. These guys don't say much. Not a lot of banter back and forth on the radio from Mike Eddy and his crew. It's fun to talk to them before the start of a race. To say, Howard, Mike, when you guys going to pit? What's your strategy? Oh, whenever it needs it. Yeah, you know. They tell you, you know, you'd think you'd learn not to ask him, but that's literally how they approach their racing every time out. Sandy?
Oh, I was just talking to Howard and, you know, cutting a few jokes, trying to ease the tension down here, but they feel that they've got a good car. The question is, do they have a great car, a car that can get around to the checkers? They're pretty confident about it, and I guess Mike is too.
Well, he's reeling them in right now. Mike Eddy making his way to the front of the pack here at Hawkeye Downs. 238 of the scheduled 300 laps in the books. It's going to be a great finish. Make sure you stay with us to the end. Now there's Kevin Sawinski's Bumblebee bunch sitting up at the top of the grandstands here at Hawkeye Downs, enjoying themselves as their man is out front and leading this one over Scott Hansen, Gary St. Amant, and Mike Eddy. The fight for 5th rages on behind them. Steve Holzhausen on the outside in car number 5 in the 87, the white machine. To the bottom is Steve Carlson as they challenge for that position.
Carlson looking to get 5th position away from fellow Wisconsin driver Steve Holzhausen.
He had a birthday last week, didn't he? Steve Holzhausen?
These drivers will be returning home 2 weeks from tonight. Both these drivers have at least, I'd say, 10,000 laps at La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway. Steve Carlson, his brother Tim, his brother Tom used to throw their bikes over the backstretch and go racing on that racetrack. That's how close they live to the speed plant we're visiting in 2 weeks live here on TNN.
racing going on throughout this field. Watch this. Brad Loney in the 33, Smokestack in the 32, and Andy Bozell in the 83.
Bozell's a lap car. He's in 17th spot, getting roughed up by the 32 of Smokestack and Loney. At that point in the race, they're battling, I believe, for the 8th position.
Loney is in 8th right now. Buddy Schrock runs in 9th. Smokestack in 10th. And we're under yellow again, number 13, I believe. Boy, we are creeping up on that record set back.
Debris in the backstretch is the call.
May at
there it is.
Jennerstown.
Jack Landis getting in the wall in that Adirondack International Speedway. 07. There we see the rear damage on the Noe Yoder Ford.
Big problems there.
Coming off of turn number 2, there's been some patchwork done to the racetrack. I'm wondering if that had anything to do with Jack Landis hitting the wall. We see the black stripe on the back straightaway wall. There's the remnants of the rear bumper cover or another portion of Landis's 07. Could be the trunk lid. It looks like the trunk has flown off on his Ford.
There he is on the outside. You can see he's all the way up in the loose stub. There's no catching it there.
Nope. That's the part of the racetrack that's not been run on all day long. A lot of loose gravel, a lot of marbles from the tires, and he did brush the wall hard enough to knock the trunk cover completely.
Yeah, he ended up catching it in the hardest part to get it up in the really loose stuff in the turn. Then he lost it on the backstretch. Interesting.
Maybe he thought he was clear and got some grip off the backstretch, and it wasn't quite clean enough with the dirt on the tires.
Could have been.
Could have been.
Nice observation, Mr. Trito. We'll be right back. The AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN is brought to you in part by your GM Goodrich service dealer. We want your business. Kevin Sawinski continues to lead here with 254 laps of the scheduled 300 in the books. Here's a 35 of Buddy Schrock.
Now, Buddy's car looks very nice and clean. The Chevrolet with the big A auto parts on the left-hand side. Well, when we get a chance to see Buddy Schrock's car come around the right side,
I think we can handle that for you.
We're talking a baker's dozen of donuts on the right-hand side of his 35 car. Anytime the car gets rubbed by another car and they leave a wheel mark, we call that a donut. Well, we see Buddy coming around currently in 15th spot. His car has another color on it. It's black from all the tire rubbing. He's been going through the pack. Was up to the 4th position, but see his Monte Carlo come around as he weaves back and forth to clean the tires off. Check out the donuts here, Ralph.
He's got a bunch of them, doesn't he?
What did they say in the movie Days of Thunder? Robbins racing? He was doing a lot of racing out there.
And the pace car lights are off. And another term we use around here a lot is PBR, percentage of bodywork remaining. Mike Garvey has had some problems in that department tonight. Get a good look at it as he comes around the other side. I'd say, Jim, probably 85% PBR, maybe 80% PBR on Garvey has lost the hood.
Yeah, and he has some right front fender damage. Maybe at this point in the race, the car was also running a bit hot. Some of the teams do take the hood off to get more air in and around the engine.
Heating things up for Scott Hansen and Kevin Sawinski as they battle for the lead. Sawinski, your leader, the black one, and Hansen coming at him in the white 52. Just 43 laps to go. Gary St. Amant runs in 3rd. Boy, this is exactly what we had in the opening laps of this event. Oh, and guess what? Jack Landis into the wall. That is in the same turn where he lost it earlier, Jim. So that is going to be our 14th caution. We are 2 away from the record, and that's one record, to be honest, I would not like to break here tonight.
Heavy contact. We see the bodywork severely rearranged on the 07. Look at where the tires are. Look where the body now sits. My guess is without that trunk lid on the back, a lot of air getting foiled around and moved around on the back end, loosened that car up enough for him to swap ends and hit the wall hard.
Probably had a hard time catching that rear spoiler back there, which would have made the car very loose going into the air. Not much downforce on that rear end.
We see Jack moving around, taking his helmet off, getting the earplugs out, so he is apparently okay, which anytime a driver side impact hits like that and how quickly he stopped really brings a big concern to the rest of the folks here. And as you know, AC-Delco Challenge Series is a big family, and anytime somebody sees something like this, they'll take a deep breath.
Already lost it, backs are right in. So Noah Yoder's bunch going to have a little work to do. Well, We're going to take a break again. Get all the business completed. So when we come back and we get a series of green flag laps going, we can see how Brad Loney and the rest can do. I'm telling you, they love their ASA racing here at Hawkeye Downs. You saw the Loney bin. Now there is the Bumblebee bunch. That's Sawinski's gang. There's Brad Loney's gang. And there's Loney. And here's Sawinski's bunch. And they cheer for the number 1 car. And right now, they got more to cheer for. Their guy sits up front. Brad Loney runs an 8th, though. He's still trying to improve on his 4th place finish here. That's the best he's had here at his home track. Let's check in with Dave Burns.
Well, Lynn Miller's standing by here, and he's Scott Hansen's crew chief. Lynn, he hasn't really started to make his move yet. Does he have something for Kevin?
I think he do. He looks pretty good down here in 3 and 4. I think if he's got a spot in the track, that's going to be good for him. He hasn't really been saying anything on the radio. He's been pretty quiet. I think he's pretty focused. He wants his first one. Besides, I mean, we got to be better than Kenny and the truck team. They've been running good, and hopefully Ken will be proud after this. He did a good job too out in Loudon. We're pretty happy to hear about that.
Yeah, the boss is on the pole now. What about your tires tonight? Some teams have had trouble. Have you guys had any trouble at all with the tires?
Yeah, we've had a little trouble on the first set. We blistered them pretty bad. Everything else we took off looked pretty good. And the 23 car looked at theirs, which kind of played our strategy for the end. They went over 100 laps on their right side. They looked good. I don't know that ours looked that good because he ain't saying anything, so I can't really say if it's good or not. So.
Hey guys, one of the biggest skills down here is watching what everyone else does, whether it's during practice or even in the qualifying line, to see what different gears and what different rear ends guys are running. They're always looking at what each other are doing.
Scott Hansen has led 90 laps in this event. Kevin Sawinski now has led 95.
Look at all the Trados trying to get airtime right here.
It's my brother Ron. With Kenny Schrader's Budweiser suit, got everything taped over. Ron's a gas man for Scott Hansen and Schrader Racing.
Trados all over the racing world, aren't they?
Yeah, there are. My brother John lives in Charlotte, works for Mike Skinner. And we only have 35 laps left in this race here, Ralph. It takes me quite a while to get down the rest of the 9 kids in the family.
About ready to go back to green. Hansen right up on the backside of Kevin Sawinski. I'm sure Kenny Schrader right up on top of that TV cheering his guy on. Gary St. Amant, he could become a 3-time winner here in 1997 if he could find a way to get to the front. He runs in 3rd in car number 7, and Mike Eddy, the black 88, still looking for his first victory of 1997. Remember, just a week ago, Kevin Sawinski won it. Mike Eddy was glued to him as they came across the line in 2nd, and Scott Hansen was right behind him in 3rd. These drivers have been battling in recent weeks at the top of the field, getting set to settle another one. And Steve Carlson comes up in the 87. We talked about him at the beginning of the show, looking for his first win in 97. And Howie Leddow, the crew chief on that 87, has found victory lane here before, Jim.
2 different occasions. We mentioned Steve Holtzhausen in his Rookie of the Year run in 1994, and last year's champ Tony Raines piloting the Baker Motorsports.
Oh, Peter Cozzolino in this one. Noodleman does not get away. He's involved in this one in the Sitco number 21, and Brandon Sperling involved in his 2nd incident of the night. This is caution number 15.
Brandon Sperling had the nose, actually the front end of the Monte Carlo is still on, but the hood and the fender did come off from an earlier incident. It doesn't affect these teams when they have to snake on through and get by some spun cars, and Brandon actually got spun to the infield grass.
Let's look at this again.
Peter Cozzolino in the 40 car and the 51 of Sperling.
Looks like Sperling got into him a little bit.
Yep. 21, Kevin Noodleman, and that
I don't think he hit anybody.
Sitco car.
What a great job he did.
Boy, that's the 3rd time Kevin Noodleman's gone to the grass to avoid an incident. He's done a masterful job. He runs here quite a bit. 6-time champ of La Crosse Speedway. You can bet we will see that 21 car in 2 weeks. And Midwest Fuels, Dutch Mill Trucking, 21.
Jack Landis is out of it. He's a little overdone with the heat, trying to cool down. We're about set to go back to green. Just 30 laps to go.
Last race, Ralph, you mentioned how close it was. That was the closest finish of the season. 0.18 seconds separated Kevin Sawinski from Mike Eddy at the finish line.
The biggest gap we've had all year was just 1.3 seconds coming at IRP. So every finish on the AC-Delco Challenge Series Tour in 97 has been pretty close. this one setting up to be another great one.
The top 14 cars now run in a line. No lap cars between the top 14, so it's a matter of who played the right strategy, who did save the tires the most.
One other thing to take note of, the ASA series will not end under a yellow, which is a rule I absolutely love. The last 5 laps have to be contested under green. Not in order necessarily, consecutive order, but they will run them under green situations. Now watch this in the back of the pack on this last restart. That's Bozell in the 83 and Schrock in the 35.
Yeah, Buddy's on lead lap trying to get around here.
Pounds right into the back of Knott.
Joe Knott does a lap down.
There is Buddy.
Knott's back in 17th. He's the first car lap down. Buddy Schrock, the last car on lead lap.
We go back up front where your leader is. Coming around to complete lap 275. 25 to go here at Hawkeye Downs.
Friday night feature time. 25 lapper to decide it.
We sure hope you're enjoying our live coverage of the AC-Delco Challenge Series. Of course, TNN Motorsports, the leader in live ASA racing. Oh, and look at that. Bill Baird locking him up, going down into turn 1, and he slides into a beautifully spaced hole between Harold Fair and Joe Knott. Boy, he got awfully lucky there, Jim.
Sensman 13th, Harold Fair 14th, drops Bill Baird in that 30th anniversary. ASA Chevrolet back into 15th.
He looks a little loose, too. Look at him down on the bottom.
We get 14th on Baird. The lap car of Joe Knott follows him down the back straightaway, as does the lap car of Andy Bozell.
Dave Sensma just in front of him in 12th position, the red and white number 6. And I really think we need to give a tip of the visor to him for soldiering on tonight with that bent up knee that he just got through with surgery on, and dealing with the new spotter and so forth. Dave Sensma doing a great job here tonight.
The surgery was because of a race incident at I-70 at the end of June, so he's actually gone 2 races now with a problem. Prior to the surgery, he finished 7th last Friday night at Kaukauna.
Well, Jack Landis is out. You saw that earlier, and he is credited with 27th. He has caught his breath and ready to talk to Sandy Hay.
Well, I know it's getting pretty slippery out there on the track. What are the conditions for these final laps if anyone tries to pass?
Well, I think what's going on out there, especially turns coming out of 2 there, they got a patch down there. It's got hot. Some of the patch is coming up, and the stones are up in the top side. But I think you'll see all the way around the racetrack, the groove's pretty much one lane. And the only passing I think you'll see is if a car slips up, somebody will get underneath them. I kind of got impatient down there. We were in a group about 10, and things weren't happening where I was at, so I tried the outside. There's nothing out there, as you can see. Also, I'd like to take an opportunity to thank May Stowe, Noah Yoder Ford, LNA Electric, Adirondack, Paul. I'd like to thank him with his Speedway up in New York. But I think we'll be okay there next year or next time down here. We got a pretty good setup.
And you're feeling better now. Looked like you were going to pass out when you first got out of the car.
Well, I didn't realize how hot it was until I had to get out. I just had them pick me up and set me down in the grass right here. And I'm okay now, but I was pretty exhausted there for a few minutes. It's pretty hot out there.
That's Jack Landis out of the race.
18 laps to go as we wind this one down. And you're looking at the fight up near the front of the pack. Tim Sauter in the 55 was right in this position last week, Jim, with 13 to go. Suddenly his fortunes turned for the worse, but tonight he is holding on to an 8th place finish after running inside the top 10 and the top 5 for most of the night. Mike Garvey takes an unusual line to pit road.
He may have a flat left rear tire or something wrong with the rear end alignment. He was running 15th but came slowly down the front straightaway, and rather than gambling on coming all the way through the turn and perhaps stopping before the finish line, took his car the short route right through the backstretch grass into the pit area.
Boy, Scott Hansen really drove the 52 deep into turn 1 that time. He is all over Sawinski and looks to be the quicker car. Look at this. Now to the inside. Look at how aggressive everybody's been driving. Look at Smokestad up all over the backside of Sauter. Well, as this one winds down, we're seeing some frustrations and some impatience. Look at this, the same 2 cars. That time, Smokestack gets through. And now for the lead. Hansen in the 52, challenging from 2nd. Sawinski doing a great job of holding on. And Gary St. Amant right behind him in 3rd, just waiting for any one of these 2 to slip up. 14 laps to go.
The addition of the Musco lighting really shows you the racing line here. All the black marks on the racetrack are the racing groove. Off of turn number 2, it actually looks like it's a little shiny heading in this turn. That's the racetrack itself, just getting a lot of rubber built up on it. Coming off of turn number 2 is where Jack Landis said there was a lot of marbles and stones. Leaders go through there pretty cleanly. Again, closing in on this, I'm wondering if Scott Hansen will do what Mike Eddy did with Kevin Sawinski. Race him hard, race him clean to the finish. There was not an opportunity. He's not going to use a front bumper to create one, but as hungry as Scott Hansen is, 25 races without a victory. We'll see what he'll do here in the final laps.
Mike Garvey's still on pit road, Dave.
That's right, Ralph. And they broke a rear end on that car. Mike has climbed out. He is done for the night.
Garvey climbed to 16th in the points. If you recall, Matt Kenseth had the 8 car to a second place finish the first race of the year. So car order points are sitting good in the All-Star Racing team, but Garvey trying to get back up to the top of the points.
10 laps to go in this one as they come across the start-finish line next time by. Scott Hansen's father just went to the airport and picked up a whole host of family members who have come over from Norway, who Scott has never met. Of course, Scott is now one of the most popular stock car drivers in all of Norway, as there's a huge Hansen family clan over there that wears Scott's colors proudly. And they're getting an opportunity to watch Scott live on TNN for the first time. They've seen tapes of his races and so forth, but haven't had a chance to catch the 52 in action live. They're seeing it for the first time, and Scott has given his family members a lot to cheer for tonight as he goes for his first win in 97. Sauter, Seneker, Beebe, and Sensiba, 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th, all fighting it out on the racetrack in the closing stages.
Remember, Rick Beebe led a major portion of the middle of this race. Bob Seneker's never finished worse than second in 4 races here at Hawkeye Downs. That may change as we're 8 laps from the finish.
This fight is a half a lap away from the fight up at the lead. They're coming out of turn 4, and our leaders are headed down the backstretch. Last week, we had the top 6 cars finishing basically nose to tail on the last few laps.
9th place is the Tim Sauter 55. Then comes Seneker and Beebe right in there. And Beebe got damaged, I'd say, lap 15 or 20, and he soldiered on and has done a masterful job with just 2 pit stops. He and Sensiba get together a bit on the front stretch. They straighten it out as we get back to the leaders.
St. Amand and Eddie, you can see, Jim, have lost a little contact to that lead pair. I think something's going to happen in front of them at this point for St. Amand or Mike Eddy to really be able to make a move. As you watch everybody coming through, there's that fight back in 9th.
As driver Jack Landis reported as he pulled out of the race, he said the track is becoming a one-groove racetrack, so these guys are pretty much hanging on to what they have. In the final circuits off of turn number 2 now.
Well, we've had 9 lead changes. Will we have one more? 3 laps to go as they come to the stripe this time. You watch the fight in 9th. Tom Jones still suffering from engine problems in the 0. Watches this fight for 9th position come by him on his right side.
That's a 6-car train for the 9th position, so if anybody slips up, 9th to 14th in a hurry could be the problem if Sauter just gets a little out of shape.
And here comes those leaders. Just 2 to go. They lap around Brandon Spurley. The pack tightens up a little bit. And did I see a small glimpse of smoke coming out of Hansen? He lost a little ground to Sawinski. Maybe that was off the Sperling car as they went past him. Sawinski opening up a little bit of ground, about a car length, and now Hansen closes up. Smoke definitely out of the 7 car, St. Amand, but he holds on to 3rd. Mike Eddy in 4th in the white flag. Waiting. Checkered flag coming. Kevin Sawinski will be the first 3-time winner of the 1997 AC-Delco Challenge Series Tour as Scott Hansen, Gary St. Amand, and Mike Eddy round out the top 4 as the Hawkeye Downs 300 comes to a close. Here's that fight for 9th, 10th, and 11th. Sauter does a great job of claiming that position. Seneker, Beebe, Sensiba, Baird, and the rest all finish right behind him. But Kevin Sawinski gives the Bumblebee bunch a bunch to cheer about as he strengthens his series points lead here in the 1997 series. We'll be back to talk to the winner of the Hawkeye Downs 300 as his car owner celebrates with his driver in victory lane. Janet Billings, the official head bumblebee of the bunch, and Dave Burns is with her favorite driver.
I'm probably not going to get a kiss here, but that's all right. Kevin, wow. I mean, you get pressured every week, big time this week from Scott Hansen at the end.
Yeah, you know, all 3 wins this year have been under some severe stress. You know, some of the best in the business with Dave Sensible at Berlin, Scott Hansen here, and definitely Mike Eddy at Kaukauna last week. But I got to tell you, this Pontiac that Lefebvre Racing team's prepared, just one awesome car all year long so far.
Kevin, how many can you win this year?
Well, I don't know. You know, we didn't really set any goals on how many. Our goal was definitely that points championship, so this ain't hurting our bid for that. And, you know, I think Goodyear had a pretty good tire tonight. When the sun was out, it was a little soft, but you can see we ran like 110 laps on that last set of green flags, and the car was there all night long.
And that's a big factor, guys.